everybody! Showtime!
Hey, people, it's showtime!
All right, everybody, showtime.
All right, everybody, it's showtime.
Now take your position. It's showtime.
Now in for Steve, here's your host, Tracy Johnson.
Welcome to the program. Good morning, Wisconsin. Great to be with you on this beautiful Thursday. A high of 80 degrees. I am loving this weather. Filling in for Steve Scaffidi on this Thursday. I was here yesterday. We talked a lot about commercial real estate with producer Brandon in the booth. I'll be here until noon today. I say this is the fastest 3 hours of my week, and it starts right now. So again, I am Tracy Johnson. For those who don't know me, I serve as the president and CEO for the Commercial Association of Realtors in my day job. So you will see and hear a lot of talk about commercial real estate, about business, about politics, and really all of these issues that matter so much to you in your day today. And I invite you to be a part of the show on the Old National Bank talk and text line. That's 1-855-616-1620. We will be following your texts, your calls, and also any breaking news that happens to come up as we move through the program this morning. As I mentioned yesterday, we talked a lot about commercial real estate, and one of the folks we had in the studio was the CEO of the Wisconsin Center District, Marty Brooks, and he talked about the raising of the beam. This is the final iron steel beam on the Wisconsin Center expansion, which is the largest commercial real estate project in the state of Wisconsin right now. And so I had the opportunity to attend that event. It was really amazing to see all of the great business leaders and folks who care so much about our state and our city right there in one place, celebrating this expansion that will have such a huge economic impact on our community. But this is a big news day, a big day for me, because it is the first day that I realized that we are live on video. I learned yesterday as I was interacting with some of the texters that you are not just listening, you are actually watching on YouTube. And so that was a little bit of a wake-up call for me, because I've always been told I have a face for radio. So if you want to check it out, you can join us on the WTMJ YouTube and see how this is all done. It's pretty high tech in here. It reminds me, though, of when I used to do some TV. I used to do some TV on TMJ4, and I happened to be in when you had not just video, but you actually went to HD. And I can't really imagine a world without HD news, high def, that is. But I remember that all of the news personalities were kind of freaking out, saying, "Oh, I need new makeup. What's going to happen? Like, what are you going to see?" So it was an interesting experience. But I hope that you'll join us not only through the airwaves, but through YouTube and through our online features. So anyway, back to the news. It's a big day here in Wisconsin. Governor Evers yesterday signed two bipartisan reckless driving bills into law. This was breaking yesterday. He was here in Milwaukee. These bills are not just meant to create stiffer penalties for reckless drivers, but also creating new carjacking section of criminal code. Because these two issues, as we've heard, are interrelated. Carjacking and reckless driving go hand in hand. So ceremoniously, these two bills are the second and third bills passed into law under Governor Evers since starting his second term. The first, also, this is very interesting, the first bill that he signed into law during his second term was also a reckless driving bill that gives local law enforcement the ability to institute penalties and even impound cars if the driver has a reckless driving conviction. And so, I applaud these efforts. I especially applaud that these were done in bipartisan fashion, because something that I talk about all the time in my day-to-day working with the real estate industry is that the best way to get a law done, the best way to make sure that this legislation sticks and that it matters and you have this acceptance, is that if it is done in a bipartisan fashion. And I applaud the effort. I think it's great to place attention on the issue of reckless driving. I think laws are great, but they're even better when they can be enforced and when people follow them. And so I still have a lot of questions and a fair amount of skepticism about the impact that these laws will actually have, because, we're really, these laws are meant and built around people who follow laws. And, you just go on Twitter or go on social media and you can see these videos of reckless drivers. These clearly aren't people who want to follow the law. But hopefully through these actions and the advocacy, the news will spread about the implications and about the penalties if you do have a minor infraction. And hopefully this is a way that we can get to those root issues that are a platform for so much other crime here in our state. Also today, congressional Republicans are holding key meetings and hearings to advance legislation that would repeal President Biden's one-time student loan forgiveness plan that would cancel $10,000 or $20,000 in federal student loan for over 30 million borrowers. And I know this is an issue that has had stops and starts and is currently being blocked by federal courts, and the Supreme Court now is expected to rule on this program sometime in June. And, in essence, this legislation would reverse Biden's extension of the student loan pause. And, this has been going on for 3 years now, since COVID. And again, this is a Republican attempt to make changes to the law. And whether you agree with the student loan debt forgiveness or not, what we have to look at is what's taking place here and how this is being implemented. And what the Republicans are doing right now is showing us how a bill becomes a law, right? They go through Congress. They're going to face some hurdles in the Senate because the Republicans have the minority in the Senate. But this is how you would make this type of sweeping legislation, not through the executive order, which is what we saw happen. And this is why we have so many problems. This is why we have so much controversy around this effort and around this executive order that President Biden has put into place. And I also think what's happening now and what we're seeing play out is a lot of harm to the borrowers. There's a lot of uncertainty. And I don't know what's going to happen in the Supreme Court, if they're going to rule in favor of the borrowers or in favor of President Biden's executive order. But 3 years worth of deferred debt is going to have a huge impact on those borrowers. And I feel like we've created a problem that we are going to have a hard time getting out of. Also, today is a big day. I mean, we talk a lot about local issues, but on the federal stage, it's a big day. Today marks the end of not only the COVID pandemic federally, as President Biden has claimed, but also the end of Title 42, a Trump-era immigration policy that stops asylum seekers from coming to America illegally. And now this is a very, very complicated issue, but in essence, what's happening at the border is very concerning, and it's very concerning even for sanctuary cities and big cities throughout the country that are feeling the impact of migrants who are coming here illegally, who are coming here and not being processed. And so what we're seeing right now play out in Washington, D.C. is a struggle with how to deal with immigration policy. This is a very, very important for our issue, for our economy, for business, not just safety and security, but for business. This is how our country will experience population growth, is through legal immigration. This is how many in business, many of the business leaders that I talk to in manufacturing, agriculture, are going to solve for employment issues. And this needs to be figured out. But right now, you're hearing about tens of thousands of migrants coming across the border and just, they have nowhere to go. Our system is broken. We've allowed it to get to this point. And what I struggle with time and time again is, we saw this coming. This is not like we woke up one day and we're like, oh, Title 42 is over. I mean, we've been talking about this for a long time. And so I wonder, why we haven't been able to put anything in place until right now. And so joining me later in the show is Wisconsin Congressman Scott Fitzgerald. He will be on to talk about not only what the Republicans and the Democrats are working on in Washington, D.C. to solve for this issue, but also what's happening on the debt talks. What's happening there? This is also a huge issue for our country. And so Scott Fitzgerald will join us later in the show. CJ Safer will also be on with the Institute for Reforming Government, and Rachel Vervelde from the Wisconsin Manufacturers and Commerce. So coming up next, he's back. Is that a tease or what? I am Tracy Johnson in for Steve Scaffidi on WTMJ.
This is the Steve Scaffidi Show on WTMJ.
Oh, yeah. It's definitely baseball season. This is your place to catch every pitch.
Here it is. He struck him out swinging.
Home run.
Going back onto the track. It is gone. Mike Brasso goes deep.
And everything in between.
I want to find that tape. We got to find that tape. We'd be better off listening to adhesive tape.
We are the home of the Brewers on WTMJ.
It's WTMJ's Steve Scaffidi for Educators Credit Union. On behalf of all of Educators Credit Union, they would like to express their sincere gratitude to all our public safety professionals. Despite the obstacles you face every day, you continue to make the selfless decision to show up and serve local communities. The care, courage, and commitment it takes does not go unnoticed. Thank you for taking the time away from your family to protect, support, and care for ours. Thank you for all that you do.
You can give them the same old, or you can surprise them with something unique from St. Vincent de Paul Thrift Store at a bargain. Almost new, but really cool. The thing about thrift store gift shopping is that you never know what you'll find, but when you find it, you'll know it's right. That's what makes it fun. And if you just can't choose, gift cards are always available at St. Vincent de Paul Thrift Stores on Highway 100 in Layton and Greenfield and 23rd and Lincoln in Milwaukee.
You're gonna love it, St. Vincent de Paul.
Find everything you need this spring at Fleet Farm. Going on now. 48-count flats of annuals are just $24.99. And shop our wide selection of lawn care essentials from top brands like Scott's, Miracle-Gro, and Husqvarna. Plus, don't miss the Mother's Day Make and Take event on May 13th, starting at 10 a.m. The first 150 kids can plant a free flower pot for the perfect Mother's Day gift. Fleet Farm, your lawn and garden headquarters.
Here's to soaking up surf culture on Wisconsin's fresh coast. Here's to beaches designed for people of all abilities. To sand between your toes and happiness in your heart. Here's to trading skylines for endless Wisconsin shorelines. And to ending each day with smiles all around. Here's to those who Wisconsin. Start your summer getaway at travelwisconsin.com.
Now, more of the Steve Scaffidi Show on WTMJ.
When they went to the Capitol and they were breaking into the Capitol, smashing windows, injuring police officers, why did it take you 3 hours to tell them to go home?
I don't believe it did. Oh, let me pull it out. I have to pull it out. So if you look at on January 5th, the day before, I said, please support our Capitol Police and law enforcement. They are truly on the side of our country. Stay peaceful. Stay peaceful. This was the day before. If you look, January 6th, this is before 2:30. I am asking for everyone at the U.S. Capitol to remain peaceful. This is right after, as it was happening. But what happened is they took it down. I don't know why. I think they took it down because it was so good. They didn't like it being up there. I am asking, and we didn't know until I got it back, because now I have 90 million people waiting for me to go back, but I'm on truth, and I'm staying on truth. Listen, I am asking for everyone at the U.S. Capitol to remain peaceful. No violation. We want no violation. We want no violence. Remember, we are the party of law and order. Respect the law and our great men and women in blue. Thank you. That was at 2:30.
All right, there he is. Former President Donald Trump on CNN last night. I have to be honest, I watched it because there was so much buildup. So much buildup to this interview. And usually I don't watch CNN. it's kind of early for me, and I've heard Trump before. I don't know, but I had to see what this was like because of all the buildup. And I have a couple of takeaways, and here's where I caution in this. I know that Donald Trump is a very, very polarizing character, and he's here. He's here. He is the leading Republican candidate for 2024. And I had to watch this spectacle play out. And what you heard in that clip was that quintessential Trump or what? He literally printed out a tweet, a time-stamped tweet, to refute the interviewer who had said, why did you wait so long to call off people as they were gathering at the Capitol? So I have a few takeaways from the town hall that President Trump held in New Jersey on CNN. And again, it was very interesting, I think, for a lot of people. But first takeaway, this is going to be a wild ride. This is going to be a wild ride. You saw people with standing ovations. I mean, this was an audience of Trump supporters, and his base is fired up. I actually think his base is more fired up than the people who don't like Donald Trump were fired up the last election. I feel this kind of happening, and I don't know where it goes, but I know that it's just beginning, or maybe it never went away. And what I thought was interesting about the CNN interviewer, who I think did a great job. I think she did a great job handling the interview. We all knew that Donald Trump he's an unruly character. He can be hard to handle. But I think that she did a good job keeping on focus. But what surprised me is the line of questioning was so backwards focused. It was all about election denial. It was about January 6th. It was about the legal woes. And, it made me think that this wasn't really a serious interview. And, what I would have liked to hear is, what did you learn as president that you would take forward into the next election? You've seen another president who took over in your wake. Times have changed. Now, what would you go back and do differently? So I was hoping for a little bit more of that, and I guess that has to be expected because it was CNN, and right after the interview, the town hall, you had all the talking heads kind of going on and on and on, and they were really fired up and, again, backwards looking. I want to look forward. The second thing is I didn't hear anything new. It was just on a new network. Usually you're seeing President Trump on Fox News. Who knows what's going to happen there? But I didn't hear anything new. There wasn't anything surprising. I know where he stands on abortion issues. I know where he stands on foreign affairs. I know where he stands on economic issues. But perhaps this was a different day and time and a different context for people to be able to hear these messages. I think there's so much frustration with the current administration that perhaps this was actually brilliant timing. I don't know. Just an observation that I made. And again, I was actually kind of stunned. I was texting with some of my friends and I said, wow, are you watching this? I was really surprised. Really surprised. And then the third takeaway, and I truly believe this about the CNN town hall. I truly believe that he did not change anyone's mind on that stage. People are so ingrained in how they feel about President Trump that if he was on a new platform, if he was on a new network, if he was in a different setting or forum, what he says is what he does. And we all know it. And we either like it or we don't like it. So I don't think he changed any minds. But just like in Trump fashion, he stole the stage and everybody's talking about it. All these networks, MSNBC, CNN, Fox News, their ratings were so high when they had President Trump on. People just want to watch it happen. And so whether you like him or you don't, he's going to be here. We have a long way to go in this race, and President Trump is not going anywhere. So we're all going to have to hang on tight. This is going to be a wild ride. I'm Tracy Johnson, in for Steve Scaffidi on WTMJ.
This is the Steve Scaffidi Show on WTMJ.
Analyzing the best of the diamond from every degree. Brewers 360. Your comprehensive look at all things Brewers, on and off the field.
Swing and a drive to right and deep. Get up!
Hear from Brewers reporters, announcers, and members of the front office every morning on Wisconsin's Morning News at 7:45. It's Brewers 360, presented by Holiday Automotive and Outdoor Living Unlimited.
He's a former coach with two sons who played professional basketball. Satch Sullinger's a competitive individual, but his golf game was suffering because of painful joints.
Right, that's real important. The golf game. Right. As we get older, we create these bad habits because we're relegated to hit a certain way.
QC Kinetics used regenerative treatments, all natural healing properties from Satch's own body, to restore those damaged joints and get his golf game back on track.
QC Kinetics regenerative medicine is regenerating me, all natural, and that's what I'm about. I'm going to tell everybody why I'm better.
Oh, and by the way, looks like the competitive Satch is back.
We're all in the same boat, and I'm getting better, and I'm watching them stay old.
Go to QCkinetics.com. Get relief and your game back. Call for your complimentary consultation.
Call QC Kinetics, 414-285-3474. That's 414-285-3474. 414-285-3474.
Accunet Mortgage is an equal housing lender. NMLS ID 255-368.
This is Chief Differentiation Officer Brian Wickert reminding home shoppers that working with Accunet is different and better than working with your bank. Most bank pre-approvals state they've only verified the potential home buyer's credit, but not their income or money for down payment. To us, that's just crazy. Accunet's rock-solid guaranteed pre-approval tells the seller we've checked out all three aspects of your financial health, and that we'll pay $2,000 if our pre-approval is faulty. Banks don't do that, but they do have a lot of overhead with all their vice presidents and fancy branches. We keep overhead low, which means lower rates and closing costs that are typically $1,000 to $3,000 lower than banks. Most importantly, our loan consultants can show you and your agent how to improve your financing and appraisal contingencies so your offer has the best chance of winning in a multiple offer situation. Hey, don't settle for a flimsy, unimaginative bank pre-approval. Click on the blue button today for your rock-solid guaranteed pre-approval. That's ACCUNET.com.
Now, more of the Steve Scaffidi Show on WTMJ.
It's 9:32. The news is next. And now from the WTMJ Breaking News Center, here's Debbie Lazaga.
Thanks, Tracy. Another Antetokounmpo is on the way. Bucks star Giannis Antetokounmpo and his wife Mariah Riddlesberger are having another baby. The couple posted the news on social media on Wednesday. They currently have two boys, 3-year-old Liam and 1-year-old Maverick Shy. Back to the movies, the Milwaukee Film Festival saw a nearly 60% increase in in-person attendance this year. Organizer Milwaukee Film says attendance for the 2-week festival was nearly 30,000, up from 18,000 the year before, last year. Less films were offered virtually this year compared to last. The Trade Milwaukee, the new hotel being built in the Deer District, will officially open on May 18th. The Milwaukee Business Journal reports the hotel is set to have over 200 rooms and 3 restaurants, as well as VIP suites and an MVP floor dedicated to professional athletes. The hotel is located adjacent to Fiserv Forum on West Juneau Avenue between Velar Phillips Avenue and North 5th Street. The Trade will have 2 places to eat inside the hotel, high-end gastropub Kraft and Solomon's, and a small plate-style restaurant, as well as an Italian rooftop restaurant called Il Servo. Time for news about your money and the WTMJ Annex Wealth Management Market Update. Right now, the Dow is down 319 to 33,211. The NASDAQ is down 22 points to 12,274. And then the S&P is down 22 to 4,114. Get on track with investment and retirement planning. Visit annexwealth.com and click the Get Started button today. And taking a look at your roads with your Johnson & Sons paving time saver traffic. Really kind of seeing some delays northbound on 4394 coming around the Plainfield curve up past Oklahoma Avenue. The right lane is out for some road work, and that's kind of got everybody shifting over, and that's kind of why we're seeing the delays. Rest of the system actually is looking just fine.
Traffic is sponsored by the Heiser Automotive Group. Come in and make that deal. Visit Heiser Automotive Group with 4 convenient locations or online at heiser.com. Ford, Chevy, Toyota, Lincoln, and Cadillac. Today's your day.
And your WTMJ 5-day forecast today. Partly cloudy, a high of 73 at the lake, 80 inland. Tonight, increasing clouds with a low of 54. Tomorrow, scattered showers with a high of 65 at the lake, 71 inland. For Saturday, isolated showers, breezy with a high of 64 at the lake, 75 inland. Sunday, scattered showers and breezy with a high of 60. And then on Monday, mostly sunny with a high of 68 at the lake, 72 inland. Right now in Appleton, it's 69. Mukwonago, 71. In Milwaukee, it's 66 degrees. I'm Debbie Lazaga, Sighting Unlimited, WTMJ News Times 935.
Give future generations a connection to their past by securing cemetery property today. Now is always the best time to buy cemetery property because purchasing today is your best protection against rising prices and limited inventory. Whether you choose burial or cremation, we have options for every belief at any budget. Speak with us today about available financing and pricing options. We're Forest Hill Memorial Park. Find us at dignitymemorial.com.
3301 East Forest Hill Avenue, Oak Creek, Wisconsin, 53154.
Advent founder Dr. Madan Kandula.
If you were formerly breathing properly and we just plugged your nose up, you're not going to like it. You're not going to like it for a few minutes. You're not going to like it for an hour. You wouldn't stand it for a day. If we're talking weeks, you're going to be clawing at the walls to get that thing off. And if we're talking months to years to decades, many of our patients are basically walking around with clothespins on their nose and they don't know any difference. They've never experienced what life is supposed to be like when you breathe properly, and so for them, they feel like it's normal. It should be no surprise that many of the folks that we treat have downstream conditions. So if somebody's nose isn't working properly, if somebody's throat isn't working properly, they're not breathing properly. And when you don't breathe properly, it creates problems for your body.
When you breathe well, you live better. Go to adventknows.com to schedule your appointment today.
Breathe well with simple solutions. AdventKnows.com.
All Brewers games are on sale now. Next up, the Crew battles the Royals for a weekend duel. Friday, May 12th through Sunday, the 14th. Fulfill your Jedi destiny at Star Wars Night on Saturday, the 13th, and receive a Luke Skywalker bobblehead with purchase of a special ticket package. Plus, take home a one-of-a-kind Brewers wristlet for 10,000 moms on Mother's Day. Sunday, May 14th, presented by American Family Insurance. Get your seats today at brewers.com/promotions.
This is the Steve Scaffidi Show on WTMJ.
Welcome back on WTMJ. I'm Tracy Johnson, filling in for Steve Scaffidi, who I think is coming back today from Washington, D.C. I'm sure he'll have a lot of great stories to share and a lot of great interviews to share with you when he returns.
We also better have a present for me.
Oh, that's right. He always brings you presents,
he does.
Brandon.
He's like my long-lost father.
Yes. I love it. There's lots of great souvenirs in Washington, D.C.
I better get something. That's all I'm going to say. I know he's listening right now, so I better get something. I got chocolate when he was in Europe.
Fantastic. All right. I don't know what the typical Washington, D.C. souvenir is, if it's like the hat or like a little replica of the White House.
I'll take anything. If it's free, Tracy, it's for me. And that's all it is.
Okay. Well, I hope he's got something good planned for you. So we spent the last segment talking about the CNN town hall. It was in New Hampshire. I had said New Jersey. It's over there in New Hampshire. But it was an interesting kind of view and an interesting, I would say, event. A lot of people are chiming in saying that this is just a circus. This is just the beginning of what is going to be a crazy couple of months. And as we know, the RNC is going to be held right here in Milwaukee in July of 2024. And this is where we are going to have, whether it's President Trump here as the nominee, or perhaps a Nikki Haley, or perhaps a Ron DeSantis, that person is going to be announced here in Milwaukee. All eyes here in Milwaukee. And before that, actually coming up in August of 2023, Milwaukee is going to host the first Republican presidential debate. And Donald Trump has already said, I don't really plan to participate. I'm going to have to see who else is there. And I think that people will continue to watch and continue to pay attention, as frustrating as it might be, because they're looking for an alternative. They're looking for a substantive debate and to look at what we have now and what we could be. And I think that there are a lot of people who are hurting right now, whether it's inflation, whether it's divide, social divide, whether it's taxes, whether it's immigration concerns. And what they see right now, they're not happy with it. They want something different. And so people are going to continue to pay attention to all of these candidates, and they should pay attention to these candidates. But the frustration, again, I think with people who are kind of folding back into President Trump, or the hope for the Trump supporters and the Trump team, is that people will be so frustrated. But I think there is too much baggage there. And we heard it again last night on the CNN town hall. Very backward looking, still continuing to suggest that the election was stolen, continuing to support the events of January 6th. And I think there's just enough people who will say, I just cannot see myself going along with that. And so I'll take the pain at the pump. I'll take the pain at the grocery store. I'll take the pain in my home, because they can't see another alternative. And so this is going to be a wild ride, like I said. And right now, President Trump and the Republican Party is taking the early lead. So I hope that we can continue to have these discussions and knowing that right here in Milwaukee, we are going to be at the heart of this conversation with the RNC coming here. And even sooner, you guys, this debate is coming in July of 2023. I'm sorry, August of 2023. This is just a few short months away. The RNC just named their new CEO, a woman by the name of Anne Hathaway. And so we're starting to see the pieces kind of all fall together, the contracts being signed. You're starting to see the vendor portal laid out. We had Allison Prangy, who's in charge of the host committee here in Milwaukee, who was talking about the way that vendors can engage. They can be a part of this huge convention that will have something like a $200 million impact on our community, 50,000 visitors. So I think we're all looking at this with optimism. We're all looking at this with hope, and we're all looking at this with answers. When we come back, I'm not sure if you're following the Writers Guild strike. This has a couple people very concerned, but I am really interested in the broader implications of this argument. You're not going to want to miss this next segment. I'm Tracy Johnson, in for Steve Scaffidi here on WTMJ.
You're listening to the Steve Scaffidi Show on WTMJ.
I'm not against shopping online. In fact, you can check out our huge selection at BurkhartSportingGoods.com. But when you're ready to buy, Burkhart should be your only stop. Because here, you can grab hold of the Midwest's largest selection of baseball bats, gloves, and equipment, and take all the swings you need in our indoor batting cages to make sure you buy the right bat. And when you buy your new mitt, we'll steam and custom fit it for you right on the spot. This is Brian Burkhart, and when you love baseball and softball like we do,
You can't beat Burkhart.
if you're in charge of uniforms and equipment, you want to get the most value for your team's budget. You want the most for your money, and you want the process to be easy. Because you already have enough on your plate. We get it. Burkhart Sporting Goods Team Outfitting Division is the best you'll find. With an abnormally high customer satisfaction rate and our own silk screening and embroidery facility for quality control. So if you want the highest quality team outfitting and incredible service,
You can't beat Burkhart.
Hey, you know what this weekend is, right? It's Mother's Day weekend. Where would you be without your mother? WTMJ's John Mercure here. Treat your mom to a super affordable meal at the Amazing Mind Chef restaurant in Hartford. Locally family-owned for almost 45 years. Do this. Start today with a free pizza for your mom. Every Thursday, when you buy one pizza, you get a second pizza free. Yes, F-R-E-E free. Don't make your mom cook today. She'll love the free handmade pizza at the Mine Shaft with plenty to take home tomorrow. I love the pepperoni. Order pizza today for your loyal employees. Just call the Mine Shaft now and pick up your pizza shortly. I highly recommend taking your mother and grandmother to the Mother's Day brunch buffet. It's magnificent. It's all you care to eat. It's under $25. Kids and grandkids under 3 always eat for free. That's what I call value. The Mine Shaft in beautiful downtown Hartford and in Oshkosh, just off the interstate. Walk in for your free pizza today, but reserve now for the Mother's Day brunch. It is a feast. MineshaftRestaurant.com.
If you're looking for the finest of furniture finishing and heirloom restoration, by golly, it's Mullally. Mullally Furniture Finishing and Repair. Serving everywhere. Quality counts. MULLALY finishing.com.
Poor Sam was a mess. Always itching, licking. His paws were soaking wet. He had bald spots on his back. DINOVITE.com. 2 weeks after he started Dynamite, I started seeing great improvements, and today 99% of his issues are non-existent.
Dynamite is nutrition.
Dynamite is the best thing you can do for your dog.
You won't believe how happy your dog will be.
I get my Dynamite from DINOVITE.com.
At SimpliSafe, we design award-winning security to protect every inch of your home. It's easy to set up yourself, and now there's an even easier option. Have an expert do it for you with SimpliSafe Pro Install. Always protecting, never a contract. 2 easy installation options. Backed by 24/7 professional monitoring for less than $1 a day. Get 20% off any new system with interactive monitoring at simplisafe.com/radio. There's no safe like SimpliSafe.
Now, more of the Steve Scaffidi Show on WTMJ.
So many hits, so little time. That is that a quote that like it
sounds like one you just made up?
I just made it up, but I actually stole it from Huey Lewis. I'm a Huey Lewis enthusiast. I'm not sure if you knew that about me.
I did know that. That's why the first playback song was.
That's right. I'm an enthusiast, and he would always say that because, like, at the very end of the show, like he wouldn't play The Power of Love until like the very end, and he'd make us all like beg for it, and people would throw out, if this is it, Jacob's Ladder, whatever, The Power of Love. So anyway. So many hits, so little time, which reminds me of this show. I had so many things to cover, and I've already missed like half the show. So I don't know if you're following this story. I mean, it is just starting to brew out in Hollywood, California. Since May 2nd, the Writers Guild, the WGA as they're affectionately known, representing 11,000 film, television, news, radio, and online writers went on strike. And you probably heard about this in a tweet from Jimmy Fallon or Stephen Colbert, who said, okay, guys, as a result of the strike, the Writers Guild, we are going to be showing reruns starting today. So, okay, fine. These writers, last time they negotiated at the bargaining table was 15 years ago. And now they are demanding more pay, a more stable pay structure, fairer contracts, provisions about artificial intelligence. All right. So they're asking for things that, are fair. When you have a union and you stick together, this is why you join a union, is you want a bargain. You want better pay. You want better work environment, all of that. So what's happening now is because of streaming services and how these corporations and these production houses operate, they're trying to cut costs, which, hello, that's what businesses do, is they try to be cost effective. And their biggest variable in so many of these cases is the writers and the staff and the labor. And so what they're doing is the writers will write the scripts, and, instead of having the writers in on the production and being able to make those tweaks along the way, these writers are instead, told, we don't need you here. We just need you to write, and now you're done. And so, they're asking for a seat at the table, which is, I think, very fair. And at the same time, you've got this issue of AI and Chat GPT. I was talking with Vince and Eric when I came in about Chat GPT. this technology. It's the fastest growing downloaded app ever. This is literally an app that you can type in like a style of writing, a few notes about a theme, how long you want it, and this thing will spit it out, and you can train this app. I don't even understand how it works, but it is a huge threat to so many jobs. We talked about this yesterday. So many jobs. You're hearing about this everywhere, and it's particularly threatening to writers of shows, of scripts. And these writers are seeing the writing on the wall, so to speak, and saying, we need to get ahead of this. We want to be paid more. And I struggle with this. I struggle with this because 15 years ago was the last time you had a conversation, and you've seen this all coming down the pike. And now you're asking these companies to just change course. You're asking these companies to ignore the technology. You're asking these companies to spend more money on writing because you think your craft is so valuable and they can't live without it. Well, I got news for you. All the while, these companies are trying to be profitable. They are trying to, meet the needs and the desires of their stakeholders, their shareholders. Many of these are publicly traded companies. And the variable in so many of these cases is labor. And they were asleep at the wheel. They should have been having these conversations all the while. And we're not seeing any sign that this is going anywhere. These writers are literally picketing for higher wages. And the production companies are saying, you know what? If you don't come back to the table, guess what? We can show reruns. We'll show The Voice. We'll come up with different programming. And guess what? All the while, we are going to be investing in automated intelligence and this technology to just write scripts without you. And I think that's a shame because I do think that artists, writers of content, film, television, news, radio, all of this is valuable. People spend a lot of time, honing their craft, honing their art. But they need to also spend some time looking around and saying, the world is changing. The world is changing, and if you're going to be left behind, you're out. And by creating this environment where they're not at the table, they're not productive, they're not part of the solution during this strike, I think this could be the end for them. And if it's not the end, it's certainly going to upend the entire industry for the years to come. Now, I know that a lot of people are like, well, what about my shows, my favorite shows? And this is coming. This is where these production houses are starting to say, hey, Stranger Things might be on hold for a little while, or it's a show called Yellow Jacket that's, next in line. And we're probably going to feel it. But I'm not sure the consumers are interested in paying more. And these production houses are just not going to factor that in. So I think this is going to be a wake-up call for not just the Writers Guild, but for so many of these workers in these types of industries where innovation is quickly catching up. They need to be paying attention and they need to be innovating because that's what the real world does. It's 9:53. I'm Tracy Johnson, in for Steve Scaffidi here on WTMJ.
This is the Steve Scaffidi Show on WTMJ.
Brewers fans, it's me, Dom Catronio, host of Brewers Extra Innings, here to tell you that you can now catch Brewers Extra Innings wherever you get your podcasts. Apple, Spotify, and of course, WTMJ.com and the WTMJ mobile app. Every stat, every storyline, and of course, highlights from the games this season following the Brewers all year long. Catch Brewers Extra Innings, presented by Fifth Third Bank, right here on the home of the Brewers, WTMJ.
Accunet Mortgage is an equal housing lender. NMLS ID 255368.
This is Brian Wickert back to report even more home buyers paid over the asking price last month, rising to 50% in the 5-county metro area. 3 out of 10 paid $10,000 or more above that list price. The good news is appraised values are generally keeping up with the over-asking offers. Still, the most powerful thing a buyer can do to make their offer the most attractive in a multiple offer situation is to give the seller some appraisal wiggle room. Telling the seller you're willing to pay over the asking price, even if the house appraises lower, sounds scary because most buyers think they have to fill that potential gap with more down payment. But in the vast majority of cases, Accunet is showing home buyers how they can offer appraisal wiggle room without bringing a nickel more to closing. Appraisal wiggle room is like a good card trick. You need to see it to believe it. So if you're home shopping with a flimsy, unimaginative bank pre-approval, upgrade today to an Accunet rock-solid guaranteed pre-approval by clicking on the blue button at Accunet.com. That's ACCUNET.com.
Earn points every time you shop with Fleet Rewards. 500 points gets you a $5 reward. It's free and easy to sign up, in-store or online. Sign up today and start saving with Fleet Rewards at Fleet Farm.
Live life to the fullest. Hey, you hear that all the time, but it's easier said than done when you're in pain, right? Hey, it's WTMJ's Greg Matzik. QC Kinetics gives people all around Milwaukee their quality of life by providing much-needed relief for chronic joint pain, and not just providing that relief, but doing it in the most non-invasive way possible, using regenerative treatments from your body's own natural biologics. So where is your joint pain? In your knees, your hips, shoulders, maybe your back? Well, QC Kinetics concentrates these impactful treatments right at the source of your pain, directly applying healing properties where you need them the most. No surgery, no downtime, no steroids or harmful drugs. And patients are raving about the results. So what does living life to the fullest look like for you? Well, finally being able to exercise or walk the dog, maybe enjoying time with the family, or just working your job. Whatever it is, don't wait another day. Call QC Kinetics for your complimentary consultation. 414-285-3474. That's 414-285-3474. Give them a call. 414-285-3474.
WTMJ, W277CV, and WKTI HD2 Milwaukee from the Annex Wealth Management Studios. This is News Radio WTMJ, a good karma brand station. Now, more of the Steve Scaffidi Show.
Welcome back on WTMJ. The Writers Guild strike has been going on for over a week, and there is no sign of this stopping, which is a big deal for some people, probably a bigger deal for the writers, but also, think about how much time we now spend with our favorite shows and binging and, all of this online media. I think this is going to start to have an impact and become an even bigger issue. A texter from the 262 added this point, which I think is a very important one, as we talk about what's happening in the industry of writing for shows, of writing for news, writing for media, that these workers are now being treated kind of as gig workers. So in other words, they're coming in to do one portion of the show, which is to write, where in the past and where they think they have the most value is to be part of the entire production. So they write the script, they watch the script being produced, they make tweaks, they make suggestions, they use some of the inspiration for writing in the future. And these production houses are saying, you know what, we need you to write, you do the writing, and we're done. And so they're working fewer hours, and of course they're making less money. And so as any union and any profession would do when they unionize, they're trying to stick together to make sure that they are treated and compensated fairly. But I think they have missed a huge point and possibly a huge opportunity. And that is the fact that technology and AI has really, really crept in. And I know in part of the new contract, they want to say, we want to limit the use of AI. Good luck with that. Good luck with that. That is not going to happen. And so I think we're going to see this really play out. And I think that what happens here is going to have a major impact on how other negotiations go with other unions, whether it's the trades or whether it's other professions, because this technology is creeping in quickly, Companies are investing. They're putting the upfront investment there now so that they can save money, increase profitability for the future. And so I hope that these workers are paying attention. Get to the table now. Don't wait until the contract expires. And I think we're all going to start to see this happen more and more. When we come back, we will have on the phone with us Congressman from Wisconsin, Scott Fitzgerald. We'll talk about immigration. We'll talk about the debt ceiling. You're not going to want to miss this. I'm Tracy Johnson in for Steve Scaffidi here on WTMJ.
You're listening to the Steve Scaffidi Show on WTMJ.
Matt had just moved into his first apartment and needed furniture to fill it, but he didn't have a big credit line. So I told him about St. Vincent de Paul. There's always a nice selection of gently used furniture there, and sometimes you can find some really cool retro pieces. And the best part is, it's always super affordable. St. Vincent de Paul thrift stores for first-time furniture buyers or anyone looking for great deals on Highway 100 in Layton and Greenfield and 23rd and Lincoln in Milwaukee.
You're gonna love it, St. Vincent de Paul.
Ask your advisor, are you 100% fee only for 100% of your clients 100% of the time? If they answer no, get a second opinion.
Financial strategies, what's the way to build your wealth?
FinancialStrategiesInc.com.
Siding Unlimited. Named the best window installers, not just here, but in the whole USA. Get the best. Siding Unlimited. 3-time winner as America's best window installer. For windows, you call Siding Unlimited first and directly. SidingUnlimited.com.
You just can't pass on Less's Glass. Find us at lessglassservice.com.
Your locally owned hometown station gives you the news and what it means to you. Wisconsin's radio station, News Radio 620, WTMJ, Milwaukee.
At 10:01, it is 68 degrees. Today, partly cloudy, a high of 73 at the lake, 80 inland. From the WTMJ Breaking News Center, I'm Debbie Lazaga. Rebuild or reimagine? The debate is underway over what to do with the Milwaukee Freeway. A public listening session for redeveloping Highway 175 will take place.
Washington Park Neighbors Board President Melissa Muller tells WTMJ the highway might not seem like a big deal to people who don't live in the neighborhood, but
people in the neighborhood would say that it creates a divider between income levels and residents of color and white residents.
Muller is hopeful that turning the highway into a slower boulevard will lead to some other changes as well.
Maybe even have it be really beautifully landscaped bike paths, a lot more connection with the Hank Aaron State Trail.
Wyatt Barmore-Pooley, WTMJ News.
Milwaukee police are investigating a shooting this morning in Bayview. Investigators have been around near Logan and Conway. No other details have been released just yet. Nearly 2 decades after 18-year-old Natalie Holloway's disappearance in Aruba, the prime suspect in the case is set to face charges in the U.S. Peruvian authorities are okaying a temporary extradition of Joran Vandersloot to face prosecution in the U.S. stemming from Holloway's disappearance in 2005. ABC's Andrea Fuji has more.
Vandersloot, a Dutch national from Aruba, is currently serving a 28-year sentence in Peru for another crime, the murder of Stephanie Flores, who was strangled 5 years to the day after Holloway disappeared. Vandersloot confessed to killing Flores. Vandersloot, now 35, never faced charges in Holloway's disappearance. Her body was never found, though after months of searching, an Aruban judge declared her dead.
A record number of immigrants or migrants have been apprehended this week as the pandemic immigration policy is on the verge of ending. CBS News correspondent Nicole Saganga is along the border in Brownsville, Texas.
Approximately 10,000 migrants were processed along the southern border Tuesday. The Biden administration's new approach to migration includes plans to open 100 new processing centers across Central and South America. Wednesday, House Democrats introduced the U.S. Citizenship Act of 2023, aimed at countering a GOP proposal that would maintain key provisions of Title 42.
Texas Governor Greg Abbott has already mobilized members of the state's National Guard to border cities to assist with any possible influx of illegal immigrants. Former President Donald Trump had much to say during a CNN town hall in Manchester, New Hampshire.
Among the topics on the CNN town hall, the war in Ukraine. He was asked if Russian President Putin was guilty of committing war crimes.
If you say he's a war criminal, it's going to be a lot tougher to make a deal to get this thing stopped.
He was asked if reelected in 2024, what would he do for the many people convicted of taking part in the January 6th riot?
I am inclined to pardon many of them.
And on abortion, he said the Supreme Court getting rid of Roe v. Wade
was an incredible thing for pro-life.
Stacey Lynn, CBS News.
Sports, traffic, and weather are next. Citing Unlimited, WTMJ News Time, 10:04.
Let's take a minute of R&R. R&R Insurance, that is. R&R Insurance provides employee benefits to all of us here at Good Karma Brands. Business insurance is getting more complex these days. To share some knowledge about that is Jeff Salasinski, VP of Insurance Operations at R&R Insurance.
Hey, Vince. Today's commercial insurance market demands the sharp focus of your insurance advisor. Thousands of insurance agencies have sold or merged their businesses. The result? Your agent can become consumed with integration issues and adjusting to a new culture. Preoccupied with systems and people issues that always come with that level of change. The impact this M&A has in your business can be disruptive, and they lose focus on you, the client.
So, Jeff, what's the solution?
With 48 years of stability, local family ownership, and deep industry knowledge, R&R Insurance will be focused on you, the client, not the progress and payout of an acquisition. And the best part? We're not for sale. At R&R Insurance, we know business insurance.
That's Jeff from R&R Insurance. Thanks for the great info, Jeff.
Listen to The Fix-It Show this Saturday morning in the 7 o'clock hour with special guest Chris Mancuso from Accurate Basement Repair. Chris will discuss and answer questions about basement problems and solutions. Accurate Basement Repair serves all of southeastern Wisconsin with comprehensive, cost-effective basement repairs, including foundation restoration and waterproofing. Check them out online at AccurateBasementRepair.com and listen to The Fix-It Show this Saturday starting at 7 a.m. with Accurate Basement Repair's Chris Mancuso.
It's ESPN Wisconsin's Greg Scalzo for Smart Spaces. How can Smart Spaces transform your business?
Really looking at the entire space holistically. The environment, the walls, ceilings, lighting, flooring, furniture, technology, along with acoustics.
To conceptualize how the end users are going to interact with the room from the furniture all the way down to the AV, having that work seamlessly within the environment and often hiding within the furniture.
Let Smart Spaces transform your business today. Visit smartspaceswi.com.
Time for a WTMJ Sports Update.
The Milwaukee Brewers have dropped their third straight series as they fall to the Dodgers by a final score of 8-1 on Wednesday afternoon. The Crew does get an off day today. They are back at it on Friday when Kansas City comes to town to begin a 3-game series. The Green Bay Packers schedule has been released per multiple reports. Jordan Love and company will open the season in the Windy City on September 10th against the Bears and will play a total of 5 primetime games, including a Thanksgiving showdown with the Lions. Lastly, over to the NBA, where ESPN is reporting that the Bucks have received permission to interview Golden State's associate head coach Kenny Atkinson. ESPN's Adrian Wojnarowski also reported Milwaukee is currently gathering a list together that will also include current Bucks assistant coach Charles Lee and former Charlotte head coach James Borrego. I'm Brandon Snide, WTMJ Sports.
And taking a look at your roads with your Johnson & Sons Paving Time Saver traffic. Things on the northbound side of 4394 slowing down a bit coming out of the Plainfield curb. That right lane is closed off right now for some road work. This basically from the Plainfield curb up past Oklahoma Avenue. Once you get past that, you're good to go all the way into the Marquette. Everywhere else seems to be moving along just fine.
I'm Brett Matchke, and you're due for service.
Rich Lawns Tire and Service Centers. 5 locations and all easy to find. Visit richlawns.com when you're due for service.
Your WTMJ 5-day forecast. Today, mostly sunny, a high of 70 at the lakefront, 76 inland. Tonight, mostly clear, a low of 50. Tomorrow, partly sunny, a high of 73 at the lakefront, 80 inland. On Friday, showers with a high of 65 at the lake, 74 inland. For Saturday, showers breezy with a high of 64 at the lake, 74 inland. And for Sunday, Mother's Day, rainy but breezy, a high of 68. Right now in Madison, it's 72, Green Bay 71, Waukesha is 73, and in Milwaukee, it's 68 degrees. I'm Debbie Lazaga, citing Unlimited WTMJ News Time 10:08.
Breaking down the biggest stories, talking about what truly matters.
Sometimes I'll start a sentence, and I don't even know where it's going. I just hope I find it along the way, like an improv conversation.
And letting your voice be heard.
Hello. A political poll. I never have before, but go ahead, shoot. I don't know. I don't know. I don't even know what that means.
Live from the Annex Wealth Management Studios at the Avenue.
It's showtime, everybody! Showtime!
Hey, people, it's showtime!
All right, everybody, it's showtime.
All right, everybody, it's showtime!
Now take your position. It's showtime.
Now, in for Steve, here's your host, Tracy Johnson.
Welcome back, Wisconsin. I am Tracy Johnson in on this beautiful Thursday morning for Steve Scaffidi, who will be back tomorrow from Washington, D.C. And speaking of Washington, D.C., Congress never sleeps. Our congressional leaders are hard at work in Washington, D.C. and in district, and they have a lot on their plate. I have enormous respect for anyone who takes on this role. Right now, they're dealing with issues related to the debt ceiling negotiations, immigration, finance. And today, we are joined by someone who is there in the belly of the beast, Congressman Scott Fitzgerald, formerly Senator Fitzgerald, congressional leader in the 5th District, Jim Sensenbrenner's former district. Welcome to the show.
Thanks, Tracy. Good to be with you.
Yeah. So I was looking through your bio, and you've only been in this position in Congress since 2020 and already serve on 2 very high-profile committees, the House Committee on Financial Services and the House Committee on the Judiciary. So congratulations and thank you for your service on those 2 very important roles, in addition to many others.
Yeah, I was fortunate enough in the last Congress to serve on not only Judiciary but Small Business and the Education and Labor Committee. But through the process of part of it just Republicans gaining majority, but also with the shuffle of the committee structure, ended up on Financial Services and stayed on Judiciary. Financial Services has a wide scope of different issues that we deal with. A lot of them are very appropriate and are a good fit for southeastern Wisconsin. So it's whether it's banking and financial institutions as credit unions, very much on the front page, insurance, housing. So there's a lot of stuff on that committee, and I'm kind of getting my sea legs on the committee right now, but it's been interesting so far.
Interesting. And I'll ask you a quick question about that later in the interview. But first, the most important, I think the most impressive thing right now that you're involved with is the negotiation on the debt ceiling. This is a dire situation, at least the way that we hear it, and especially for businesses here in Wisconsin. What's happening there? What's the mood? And are we going to see any movement here?
Yeah, it's a great question. Obviously, very timely. The Republican conference has continued to be briefed by Speaker Kevin McCarthy personally on any of the changes or angles on it. But I guess what I would report back is that right now the product, the bill that we passed in the House is kind of the only game in town. So we're all kind of viewing that as, hopefully this brings Senator Schumer and then ultimately President Biden to the table so that we can kind of figure this out. But I like the bill. I mean, it was a true leadership challenge for Kevin McCarthy to kind of rally the troops and get everybody behind the concept of just putting us on a different trajectory when it comes to overall spending. I think that's been the concern of a lot of members is, we know we're not going to solve the debt issue overnight, but there are certainly things that we should be doing as lawmakers to make sure that we're in a different place than we are right now. And I think this bill accomplishes that. I'm optimistic that, you're going to see more frequent meetings with the White House, and it sounds like they're going to try and get together again today or early next week to have a second conversation. But I also know that the members are pretty steadfast and want to hold our position. So we'll see where that goes.
Congressman Fitzgerald, the proposal that you're talking about really suggests that we do follow through and pay our debt. We do increase spending, but we also want to cut costs and we want to focus on where the priorities are. And I think that's really an important message and an important place to start for those negotiations. And unlike your time here as a state senator in D.C., as we know, when we don't have a budget, business stops. And so the impact on Wisconsin and federal workers in Wisconsin would be felt throughout.
Yeah, nobody wants us to default on the debt. What that would do to the markets and many other different aspects of people's kind of personal finances, it would be devastating. So that's not an option. The bill that we call Limit Save Growth Act, it really just locks in overall discretionary spending at the same fiscal year 2022 levels that basically the federal government was operating under in December of 2022. So that doesn't seem too drastic or radical to me. All we're doing is going back to, what some people would say even could be considered pre-COVID numbers on overall spending. We just need to change that trajectory, like I said.
So today is also a big day on the discussion of immigration. As of midnight tonight, Title 42, the Trump-era immigration policy, is lifted. And a lot of people are worried about what this means for our economy, what this means for our security. You and your fellow congressional leaders have a proposal. What does that look like, and what are your thoughts on this moving forward?
Yeah, one of the things that is a big part of being on the Judiciary Committee is that we certainly have jurisdiction over a number of different parts of the statute that have an effect both on immigration and, quite honestly, we've kind of taken the lead. That committee has taken the lead to talk about what's been going on at the border. So I've been down there a number of times, and I'll just relay to your listeners the two things that really struck me. One was in McAllen, Texas, when we were down there for a congressional tour. Was the amount of individual Border Patrol agents that I spoke to, and one of the things that I would ask them is, what can we do? What can Congress do to really help you in this difficult job that you have? And they said, keep Title 42 in place or something similar, revisit it, come up with something that makes sense. So today it's alarming. I mean, the images that we're seeing already, the dialogue that we're hearing about that's happened with some of the congressional members that represent border districts. One of my friends who has one of those districts in Congress, I was talking to him yesterday, Tony Gonzalez, and basically what he said was, what he's hearing is there are leaders from other nations that are now reaching out directly to the administration saying, listen, we know what the numbers are. It's going to be hundreds of thousands of people that try and make it to the border and then try and get through in the next couple of days. So, the bill that we have today, which I expect, I'm very hopeful will pass probably about 4 o'clock Eastern time when we go to the floor, is first and foremost deals with the physical security of the border. So once again, erecting fencing, the wall, whatever you want to call it. And I'll tell you, a lot of border agents, when you talk to them about that, they simply say it was a game changer for them because it was starting to allow them to gauge the flow of individuals coming in and out. Instead of this free-for-all where you see people trying to navigate across the river or, in some of the states where the international line is on land, just people hiding and evading law enforcement, there would be some control again. So that's first and foremost. That's part of the bill that we're working on. Also, deploying technology that the Border Patrol, as well as Homeland Security, has been asking for. There are some high-tech things that they have been saying could be very helpful in managing the border. You want to just increase the amount of Border Patrol agents. They've told us that they're understaffed. They've been supplemented with National Guard for some time, not just what you've been seeing in the last couple of days, which is helpful, but the National Guard are limited in what they can actually do. And then also assist Homeland Security, which for the most part are the ones that are watching the narcotics that are just blatantly being brought across the border, as well as smuggled, and most of that is happening in the San Diego sector. So it's complex, but we're hopeful this bill will be something that will start negotiations with the White House again and with the U.S. Senate on immigration. And there's a tough part in the whole bill. It's E-Verify. It's a program that's been around for a while. Maybe your listeners have heard of it. And a lot of members are trying to work through that piece. So there's still a little bit of deal-making going on behind the scenes, but I still expect us to pass something hopefully later this afternoon.
Congressman Scott Fitzgerald from the 5th Congressional District right here in Wisconsin, talking about the immigration solutions for our country. This is so important, not just to secure our border. When we have such a backlog, we're hearing about tens of thousands of individuals coming across, and then the deployment of only, 1,500 border agents? It's like, how do you really combat this? How do you process these people legally so that they can help us, with labor shortages, with security concerns? I mean, this is a real bipartisan opportunity, I would suggest, to make right for our country.
Yeah, especially if you talk to the individual Border Patrol agent, really they feel like they're not really able to do what their mission is, which is to prohibit people from entering the states that clearly are part of that criminal element, because oftentimes they feel like they have become just caretakers. Mm-hmm. So, and if you talk to those, which I did, and many members of judiciary on the numerous visits, what you find is that many of them will actually say, as soon as they come across the border, that they're seeking asylum. Mm-hmm. And as soon as they say asylum, then they're ushered into really an area in which they're only held for about 24 hours, and then they're being turned loose into the states. Some of them with a date that they're supposed to come back and meet with, be in front of a judge to determine their asylum status, but that's not happening. We all know that it's been catch and release for a couple of years now, and it's just allowed the numbers to swell.
Congressman Scott Fitzgerald, Congressman from Wisconsin, thank you so much. One final question. You've been out in D.C. in this role now for 3 years. What has surprised you serving as a congressional leader versus a state senator? I know you had a huge role as Senate Majority Leader here in Wisconsin. So what surprised you?
Yeah, I think the speed at which legislation moves. I mean, what we were able to do in the state legislature was work on a piece of legislation and, a couple of weeks later have something in a good form, and oftentimes you could pass it through one chamber or the other. In D.C., it's much slower. The process is somewhat tedious, I guess I would describe it as. And, if you want to get something done, there is multiple committees with multiple jurisdictions that you have to work through. So, yeah, it's definitely a different process. It's been interesting, fascinating watching it from kind of the 30,000-foot level. I remember some of the federal funding that kind of made its way through our own state budget, but we didn't have much say over that because of the way things are structured. And, so you recognize a lot of the programs that you had done work on in the state legislature as well. So I'd say that's probably my biggest observation.
Congressman Scott Fitzgerald, thank you so much for your time. Thanks for your leadership and thanks for your work in Washington, D.C. on these very, very important issues.
Thanks, Tracy. Good to be with you. Thank you.
Have a great day. It is 10:23 right here on WTMJ. I'm Tracy Johnson in for Steve Scaffidi.
You're listening to the Steve Scaffidi Show on WTMJ.
You can have the power of Jeff Wagner.
Don't California my Wisconsin.
In the palm of your hands, whenever and wherever you want.
Maybe we need more than political theater when we're trying to deal with some of the issues that we face today.
Just look up The Jeff Wagner Show on Apple, Spotify, the WTMJ app, or wherever you get your podcasts. But at the end of the day, the sun came up this morning, and like I say, your dog still loves you. And don't forget, you can still listen to me live from noon to 3 on WTMJ.
Hey, this is Steve Scaffidi for Advent. I had some snoring issues that kept my wife up at night. That led to poor sleep and a lot of tired mornings on the radio, and nobody wants that, trust me. But it's simply, my nose wasn't working the way it should. I decided to go to Advent for a quick 30-minute visit, one of their great facilities, talk to a bunch of their doctors. They really put me at ease. After a really simple sleep study at home, in my own bed, they determined the root cause of my problem had to do with my sinuses and nasal passages in my breathing triangle. I didn't even know I had a breathing triangle, so I went to see Advent. After a short procedure done in office, I'm back to breathing well, and my wife and I are both back to sleeping through the whole night. The best sleep we've ever had, that could be you. If you struggle with restless nights like I did, take the time to see how Advent can help. To find out how breathing well and sleeping well can make your life and your nights a whole lot better, go to AdventKnows.com, schedule an appointment today. Because Advent knows, when you breathe well, you live better.
When I came up with this half-combumbled idea of opening a furniture store in Milwaukee, I still think you're crazy, but well.
Ben and Arvid Huth, brothers and owners of Penny Mustard Furnishings.
Our parents were hesitantly positive for us, but that's just who they were. But my college professors, I was quitting college to start this, and they were, oh, absolutely, don't do that, don't do that, don't do that. I had a girlfriend told me not to do it. We were originally going to have a partner.
He backed out.
He backed out. Actually, two partners backed out.
Yeah.
And actually, it was good that everybody else backed out.
Yeah.
Because it worked better this way.
But I guess we kind of looked at it as what's the worst that could happen? And honestly, what's the worst that could happen?
Yes.
We'd have been in debt and we'd owed a lot of money back.
Yes.
So we just had to work that off somewhere and then...
And it wouldn't have been that much money.
No.
We didn't have that much money and nobody borrowed us any, so...
Well, that's true. And at 19, you got the time to make some mistakes at that age,
Yes.
So what if I had to work 3 years to pay off all that debt before I made any money again for myself and then go forward from there again,
Okay.
PennyMustard.com.
Every hour. We are following some breaking news this morning. Congressman George Santos is now in custody.
Every day.
St. Croix County Sheriff's Department grieving the loss of one of its deputies, Katie Lysing.
The news doesn't stop.
Governor Tony Evers has ordered flags to be flown at half-staff in Leasing's honor.
And neither do we.
As I saw all those people on the highways and on the bridges honoring us and honoring Katie, I was humbled, but I knew our profession is strong and it's going to remain strong.
News Radio WTMJ.
Hey, you know what this weekend is, right? It's Mother's Day weekend. Where would you be without your mother? WTMJ's John Mercure here. Treat your mom to a super affordable meal at the amazing Mine Shaft restaurant in Hartford. Locally family-owned for almost 45 years. Do this. Start today with a free pizza for your mom. Every Thursday, when you buy one pizza, you get a second pizza free. Yes, F-R-E-E free. Don't make your mom cook today. She'll love the free handmade pizza at the Mine Shaft with plenty to take home tomorrow. I love the pepperoni. Order pizza today for your loyal employees. Just call the Mine Shaft now and pick up your pizza shortly. I highly recommend taking your mother and grandmother to the Mother's Day brunch buffet. It's magnificent. It's all you care to eat. It's under $25. Kids and grandkids under 3 always eat for free. That's what I call value. The Mine Shaft in beautiful downtown Hartford and in Oshkosh, just off the interstate. Walk in for your free pizza today, but reserve now for the Mother's Day brunch. It is a feast. MineShaftRestaurant.com.
Wisconsin is as hard-working of a place as you'll ever find. There's a sense of pride, community, and work ethic that's second to none. People here are tough, but even the toughest among us need help after a serious accident. At Gruber Law Offices, we won't stop fighting for you and your family. We've been here and will continue to be here for as long as you need us. Gruber Law Offices. One call, that's all.
The 988 Suicide and Crisis Lifeline is here and ready to help. Anyone can call or text 988 or chat via 988wisconsin.org to get connected to a trained Lifeline counselor. Trained counselors are here to support anyone experiencing a suicidal, mental health, or substance use crisis. You can also contact 988 if you are concerned about someone. 988 is confidential and free to all Wisconsin residents. 988 24/7. Call, text, chat. Here to support you. Sponsored by the Wisconsin Department of Health Services.
Now, more of the Steve Scaffidi Show on WTMJ.
Welcome back on WTMJ. Big thanks to Congressman Scott Fitzgerald for joining us on phone from Washington, D.C., where they're slogging through some very important legislation today. Discussions about the debt ceiling, discussions about immigration as we see the Title 42 ending as of midnight tonight. He's on the ground representing Wisconsin, trying to work through some of these very, very complicated issues. And I've always said this about elected leaders. This is a job that I could not imagine being in. But, it is a trying time right now for our country. And looking at the proposals, looking at how we solve for immigration reform, I think is really important, not just for safety and security. We heard the congressman talk about the amount of fentanyl and drugs that would come over the border if we don't solve for this, but also creating a pathway for legal immigration to solve for some of our employment issues, to solve for some of our population issues. This is a critical imperative for our country as we move forward. And so this is also an issue that has bipartisan support in where we want to go. How we get there, that's where the complication is. That's where the details are. That's where we have the negotiation, the back and forth, and the friction. And sometimes that friction, and hopefully that friction will lead to a good solution that can be enforced, that can be implemented, and that will be good for our state and for our country. So we're going to continue to follow that throughout the day. Congressman Fitzgerald suggested around 4 o'clock, 3 o'clock Central Standard Time. We should hear more on those developments, and we'll be watching, we'll be waiting, and we'll be following this issue. But right now, from the Breaking News Center, it's 10:30, and we have Mike Spalding.
Thank you, Tracy. 30 people now in custody. They were all arrested during a series of FBI raids on the city's north side Wednesday afternoon. The Milwaukee FBI office and the DOJ say that the suspects all facing charges that range from fraud to murder for hire. The FBI conducting raids at homes of suspected gang members. The FBI says similar raids were conducted across the country. Back to the movies. The Milwaukee Film Festival seeing a nearly 60% increase in in-person attendance this year. Organizers at Milwaukee Film say that attendance for the 2-week festival was at about 30,000. That's up from 18,000 last year. They say that less films were offered virtually this year compared to last. And another Antetokounmpo is on the way. Buckstar Giannis and his wife Mariah are having another baby. The couple posting the news on social media Wednesday. They currently have 2 boys, 3-year-old Liam and 1-year-old Maverick. Time now for some news about your money and the WTMJ Annex Wealth Management Market Update. The Dow down big right now, 238 in the red at 33,292. The Nasdaq's up 16 points at 12,322. The S&P 500 that is down 10 points at 4127. Get on track with investment and retirement planning. Visit annexwealth.com and click the Get Started button today. Taking a look at your roads in the Johnson & Sons paving time saver traffic. Things are looking pretty good out there this morning. No major issues, no major delays across the system.
Traffic is sponsored by Hall Mazda Milwaukee. Visit hallmazdamilwaukee.com.
While you're navigating the roads as quickly and safely as possible, if you see something we should know about, call the WTMJ Hall Mazda Traffic Tip Line at 414-238-9329.
Your WTMJ 5-day forecast, mostly cloudy skies today, 73 degrees your high lakeside, 80 degrees inland. Overnight tonight, mostly cloudy skies, a low 54. Tomorrow, scattered showers to start the weekend, 65 lakeside, 71 your high inland. Saturday, more rain in the forecast, breezy as well, a high 64 degrees by the lake, 75 inland. Sunday, scattered showers, breezy, a high 60. Monday, the sun does return, a high 68 lakeside, 72 degrees inland. In Milwaukee this afternoon, or this morning, I should say, it is 71 degrees. I'm Mike Spalding, Siding Unlimited, WTMJ News Times, 1032.
It's time for you and that diamond to come alive again.
At the second annual Spring Ring Cleaning at Kessler's.
Even if you have a good ultrasonic jewelry cleaner, it can't match the pressurized steam cleaning we do at Kessler's.
Let us steam clean and polish your engagement ring.
For free.
I'm Joe Gerke, president of Kessler's, and we want to strip away all the soap scum that is making your diamond look dull.
For free. And while we're doing it, we'll inspect the prongs on your ring to make sure your diamond isn't about to fall out.
It's the second annual Spring Ring Cleaning at Kessler's.
Here's another idea.
Bring us anything you own that needs to be repaired.
And we'll give you a price to make it like new again.
And if you have some old jewelry you don't wear anymore,
We can make something unique and wonderful out of it.
unique in all the world.
Welcome to Kessler's.
To find the Kesslers nearest you, visit KesslersDiamonds.com.
There's a race going on inside your body, and sometimes the bad guys, otherwise known as arthritis, get there first. That's when the joint pain kicks in.
Your healing process is just too slow and just can't catch up, and it needs just a little bit of help from QC Kinetics.
That's Dr. Daniel Zuckerman, a QC Kinetics medical director.
We all know that you can heal yourself. If you get a cut, it heals on its own. Your joints are no different. We can take the healing properties from your blood, concentrate them down, and put them in the spot that you need the help. It's amazing. Your body can heal itself.
At QC Kinetics, that's called regenerative medicine. No surgery or steroids, just lasting relief, the natural way.
The fact that we can treat them without surgery, but using their own body's natural healing process, without medications, without steroids, without surgery, it's just amazing.
Call QC Kinetics now for your free consultation.
Call QC Kinetics, 414-285-3474. That's 414-285-3474. 414-285-3474.
Now, more of the Steve Scaffidi Show on WTMJ.
10:35 on the nose. On this beautiful Thursday morning, I am Tracy Johnson in for Steve Scaffidi. He will return tomorrow. This half hour, though, we are going to talk about a wide-ranging suite of topics that were discussed throughout the state of Wisconsin by our next guest, CJ Safer. He's the CEO of IRG, the Institute for Reforming Government. And I know that every time I am in, CJ has a new topic, a new piece of research. I know you talk to Steve a lot. You are a think tank organization that develops policy reforms, engages communities, and holds government accountable. IRG wants to give all Wisconsinites an opportunity to succeed and prosper. I love that. That is like on every piece of content that you guys have.
Well, thank you. It's a hefty mission.
Right. You want to make sure all Wisconsinites are happy. So speaking of making all Wisconsinites happy, you did some research. You did some interviews. What do Wisconsinites want?
So IRG really thought that we needed to leave the Milwaukee-Madison corridor, and we really wanted to be an organization that tries to speak on behalf of the problems and solutions for Wisconsinites all across the state in every single corner. So what we did for the last year and a half is we traveled the state. We drove over 5,000 miles. We met with hundreds of community leaders. We toured over 40 cities. And we held about 25 listening sessions. And when I say we, I really mean my colleague Madison Hartman, who did a heck of a job, our Director of External Affairs. And what we really did is we had one basic rule, is we were just going to listen. We didn't pitch any policy ideas. We didn't, we moderated a bit to keep the conversation going. But really, we wanted to listen. And the second rule was we wanted to hear of the problems that different communities and people faced and what their solutions were. I think too often, policy solutions kind of come from the top down. And what we were curious is what can we get from the bottom up? But our main focus was figuring out, what ails Wisconsin. So we met with school board members, we met with superintendents in urban areas and rural areas. We met with small business leaders, manufacturers, farmers, veterans groups. We really tried to, and we're not going to profess to, speak to every group or every person, but what we did was really unique in the state policy world. We really wanted to hear what Wisconsinites wanted throughout the entire state.
So what was that one question that you asked, and were there some common themes, whether you were talking to commercial real estate practitioners or manufacturing executives or farmers?
What do you want state government to do? What are the issues that you have, and what kind of state policies do you need to make your industry, your occupation, or your family flourish? That was mainly the conversations. And geez, you would be surprised when you actually sit down with Wisconsinites across the political spectrum. You could really get them to talk. And, you know, we're very fortunate that we met with people from all different types of backgrounds, different political parties, and people just really want to be heard. Well, look, let's get into it. So the first big theme that we heard was mental health. Wow. It doesn't matter really where we went, but, you know, focusing on schools. We did a tour of one of the most rural school districts in northeastern Wisconsin, about a one school building for the entire district. And we sat down with a teacher in the 5th grade, and she told us that about a third of her class tried to inflict self-harm. A third of her class tried to inflict self-harm. So here you have 10-year-olds in a district in Wisconsin who have broken homes. Their parents are abused to opioids. They're just coming out of COVID and government shutdowns, and they have some significant mental health issues. And we saw this in several other districts that we talked to. And it's one of the things where there's teachers and school board members and administrators that are saying, you know, we're now turning to have to hire or contract with or actually have mental health practitioners in the district. And when you take like a step back, we're now asking school districts to be mental health practitioners because because we have a mental health epidemic in certain parts of the state, like rural Wisconsin. And we just don't have enough mental health practitioners outside of schools. And it's an awfully heavy burden to carry on to schools. And we sat down with groups of college students too, especially those who go to University of Wisconsin-Madison. And they really said that mental health issues are now very common amongst their student groups. And this is something that when I was in college, you certainly don't remember talking about it too much. But now coming out of COVID, it is very common for mental health to be something that college students talk about just as like it's a form of like going to the doctor for like a checkup. And we did, there was a poll that was released by State Policy Network and Morning Consult that I'll reference throughout this discussion. And 83% of Wisconsin voters, 83% of Wisconsin voters say that mental health is a significant problem in our state. Not surprisingly, that's why Governor Evers has dubbed it the year of mental health. But certainly when you start to kind of leave our area, I mean, it is something that people are talking about and really suffering from.
CJ Safer, CEO of Institute for Reforming Government. I think what you're talking about with regard to mental health, we hear it a lot, and now we're starting to see the investment, whether it's in schools, whether it's in the workplaces. Do you think that there's hope for policy solutions that will help? I don't want to say stem this because it has been going on for a while, but you just admitted yourself 20 years ago when I was in college, probably when you were in college, this wasn't a discussion we were having. So just the mere fact that it's acknowledged, is this a good thing that you were able to uncover and then share with legislators?
Well, look, I mean, you take a step back, and it was almost like COVID kind of broke the mental health issue in Wisconsin. I think there's a number of issues that we've suffered from. But when you look at kind of broken homes, when you look at drug and alcohol abuse and how that leads to issues in the family, and then you have COVID, and then you have 2 years of whether it's self-quarantining or government shutdowns or just a huge disruption on society, students not going to school, students not socializing. We're still catching up from all of those issues. And that's what policymakers need to understand. These issues are not going away anytime soon. There's things that we're suggesting and working with lawmakers on, like how do we get more mental health practitioners into Wisconsin through licensing reform and through tele-mental health. Because right now there's just not enough, especially when you go into places like rural Wisconsin. The fact that schools now have to hire or want to hire mental health practitioners is a clear sign that the system's broken.
So what are some of the other themes that you saw? We talked about mental health. We talk about regulatory reform. What else are you hearing? I mean, you talk to the veterans group. You talk to charter school groups. What else can you tell us?
Well, we talked to a number of education groups, and look, education in Wisconsin is big and diverse. We have charter schools, we have private schools, we have public schools, we have, public schools in urban areas, public schools in rural parts. And there's a couple of common themes that we really quickly observed. Childhood literacy is a major problem. It's something that I think a lot of us are discussing. It's something that policymakers are discussing right now in the Capitol. But the fact is that, all the numbers show it. Wisconsin's a bottom 10 state for reading across the country. We're last in reading for Black students. And it's not just numbers, though. When you actually talk to teachers, as we did in Kenosha, I mean, the problem is we are advancing students, the students that can't read in first grade, second grade, and third grade that are showing up as numbers, they're being advanced to every single grade. And guess what? They're not learning to read in fourth, fifth, or sixth grade. So we're now pushing students through the education system who don't know how to read. That's just not unfair to the student. That's unfair to the parent, but it's also unfair to the teacher, to the eighth grade teacher that's now being unfairly required to educate a student who doesn't know how to read in the eighth grade. We heard those stories several times in rural areas, but also in suburban areas too, which just is more of an incentive for policymakers to fix the literacy issue so every child can read by second grade. Because right now, that's not working.
Well, and could this be contributing to the teacher shortage and the reason why teachers just don't want to have to fix these things themselves when the system really isn't designed to work?
Well, look, I mean, workforce is another commonality. We'll talk about the business part of that later. But right now, we don't have enough teachers. And that's something that's, putting, again, if we talked about it before with mental health, it is such a strain on education, such a burden on teachers that, again, this is Teacher Appreciation Week. And just think about everything that some of these teachers are going through, not just with the mental health, but now there's just not enough teachers. There's not enough subs. And a lot of that has to do with we're just asking them to do way too much, not just educate a student, but also kind of bring a student up to speed. Post-COVID, you have learning loss, and then now you also have the mental health issues too.
CJ Safer, the CEO for Institute for Reforming Government. When we come back, I want to ask you specifically what you are doing in your organization to help advance the conversation. You've got the data, you've got the numbers, you've got the bottom up. So how do you take that to those policymakers? In the studio with CJ Safer, CEO of Institute for Reforming Government. I'm Tracy Johnson, in for Steve Scaffidi.
This is the Steve Scaffidi Show on WTMJ.
Welcome to our Everyday Health feature brought to you by the Froedtert and the Medical College Wisconsin Health Network. If you or a family member have received a serious diagnosis like cancer, heart disease, or a neurological condition, you may have been offered a clinical trial as part of treatment, and you may have questions about participating. With us today to discuss clinical trials is Dr. Ben George, a Froedtert and the Medical College of Wisconsin medical oncologist and director of the Cancer Clinical Trials Office. He'll help us understand what clinical trials are, how they fit into treatment, and why they're important. Dr. George, first of all, thanks for being with us today. What are clinical trials?
Clinical trials are broadly mechanisms to investigate the safety and effectiveness of new treatments. It may be a new drug, it may be a new approach to surgery, a new modality like radiation therapy, or lifestyle changes that can improve outcomes. Ultimately, the goal of clinical trials is really to advance our frontiers in terms of treatment options, assimilating our latest developments in science and technology.
What about a patient who isn't offered a clinical trial? Is it appropriate for that patient to ask their doctor whether there might be something available that would be appropriate for them?
I would strongly encourage patients and their families to be advocates for themselves. In fact, it would be a neat idea for them to check with their provider whether they are a candidate for a clinical trial at the time that they initiate treatment. Absolutely.
Doctor, the truth is there's been so many developments in medical science and in the way we treat serious diseases like cancer, and a lot of that comes from people participating in clinical trials. That's where these developments originate from, right?
I could not agree more. Absolutely. It sets the tone for advancements in healthcare.
Dr. George, thanks so much for being with us today.
Thank you for having me.
Find a doctor who's right for you by visiting Freightert.com.
Earn points every time you shop with Fleet Rewards. 500 points gets you a $5 reward. It's free and easy to sign up, in-store or online. Sign up today and start saving with Fleet Rewards at Fleet Farm.
AccuNet Mortgage is an equal housing lender. NMLS ID 255368.
This is Chief Differentiation Officer Brian Wickert reminding home shoppers that working with AccuNet is different and better than working with your bank. Most bank pre-approvals state they've only verified the potential home buyer's credit, but not their income or money for down payment. To us, that's just crazy. AccuNet's rock-solid guaranteed pre-approval tells the seller we've checked out all three aspects of your financial health, and that we'll pay $2,000 if our pre-approval is faulty. Banks don't do that, but they do have a lot of overhead with all their vice presidents and fancy branches. We keep overhead low, which means lower rates and closing costs that are typically $1,000 to $3,000 lower than banks. Most importantly, our loan consultants can show you and your agent how to improve your financing and appraisal contingencies so your offer has the best chance of winning in a multiple offer situation. Hey, don't settle for a flimsy, unimaginative bank pre-approval. Click on the blue button today for your rock-solid guaranteed pre-approval. That's ACCUNET.com.
Now, more of the Steve Scaffidi Show on WTMJ.
Welcome back on WTMJ. I'm joined today by CJ Safer, CEO for Institute for Reforming Government. They have a hot new piece out today that outlines interviews that they did over the past year and a half with different sectors of industry across the state of Wisconsin. And we spent the first part of this interview talking about some of the opportunities and the challenges: mental health, teacher shortage, tax reform. What are some of the positives that you saw and heard from the people around the state?
Yeah, so last year we drove over 5,000 miles. We toured over 40 cities, and we had about 25 listening sessions where we just listened to what people had to say. We didn't try to pitch anything. We just wanted to know what were their problems and how could state government fix them, or how could state policy fix them. And it was an incredibly rewarding experience for us as a policy organization, because we want to be bottom up. We don't necessarily want to be telling people. We want to be advocating for solutions that are going to help Wisconsinites solve kitchen table issues. And look, it was just incredibly optimistic stories to also go out and to meet with farmers and think about that the agriculture industry, sometimes it gets maligned in Wisconsin, but dairy products still make up more than half of our total ag output. And we're still one of the top states for agriculture, just period. And it's something that we really think that Wisconsin should not only be proud of, but government and other businesses should look to what's happening. We toured farms in Spring Green and Arcadia, and we found that there was some incredible technological advances there. There were dairy farmers that were using cutting-edge software and computer programming to monitor the health of cows, so they could better determine if their cows were getting sick or if they needed different types of nutrients. And then there was also we saw some drones that were being used for some farmers to apply food protection. When you just think where technology's advanced in the last 10, 15, 20 years, we had farmers that were telling us how much money this has saved. So by embracing robotics, by embracing cutting edge technology, we have a dairy sector and we have an egg sector that's just dramatically different and kind of leading the way on some just fascinating revolutions.
So when you talk about any changes that they're looking for, would they be looking for more support, more education? I saw some notes in here about regulations. So how do we help some of these industries that, frankly, I don't think a lot about farming and agriculture. We talk so much about manufacturing, but the truth be told, our state is an agriculture state. This is a huge interest for outstate Wisconsin.
Well, it's ag and it's manufacturing. Another thing that we need to kind of embrace and just be incredibly proud of, that we are a top 10 state for manufacturing. And when we met with, dozens of manufacturers, big employers, farmers and small businesses from every corner, from Hayward to Arcadia to Eau Claire to Brillion and the Fox Valley. There are two common themes, two things that they need state policymakers to do. One, fix the workforce shortage, and two, do something about the high income taxes. Both of those are hurting businesses' ability to grow, and they're also hurting their ability to recruit new people to come to Wisconsin. So that's why we've been very vocal on finding ways to cut taxes. We've, been very out there at IRG for elimination of the income tax. We think that would help with the workforce shortage issue. We also think that right now we're not going to get what we want, but we think that both sides in Madison have to come together and figure out how to do a massive middle class tax cut and a huge tax cut on small businesses, and so we can really kind of bring more people here. We were in Wapaka Foundry, and that was one of the largest employers, and they said that they don't have enough employees in order to grow, and it's a massive hindrance for that sector.
So all of these issues really sound like they could achieve bipartisan support. And so, we appreciate all the effort. I mean, clearly, I don't know how you even had time to do Steve's show at all or put this together. CJ Safer, CEO for Institute for Reforming Government, covering this wide-ranging report that you had put out from all of these interviews across the state. Where can people find more and read the entire report?
Please go to reforminggovernment.org and download it and let me know what you think.
And you're so accessible. I appreciate it. So when we come back, we're going to just touch on the poll that you did that was in alignment with this research report. I'm Tracy Johnson, in for Steve Scaffidi on WTMJ.
This is the Steve Scaffidi Show on WTMJ.
There are heroes among us who run toward danger rather than away from it. We call them first responders. This is Steve Scaffidi. WTMJ is partnering with Educators Credit Union to honor police officers, firefighters, and countless others who work every day to protect our families and loved ones. Do you have a first responder you would like to nominate? Go to WTMJ.com, click on the Salute to Service banner, and share your story. We'll bring you the incredible stories during Salute to Service month in May.
Steve Scaffidi's Salute to Service with Educators Credit Union. Details now at WTMJ.com.
From big tailgate parties to cozy dinners for two, the freshest ideas start with a stop at Century Foods.
Now through Wednesday, save on 24-pack 0.5-liter bottles, essential everyday purified drinking water, 2 for $6, limit 4. 12-pack 8-ounce bottles or 6-pack 16.9-ounce bottles, Splash Blast flavored water, 2 for $6. 18 to 80-count box, hefty trash or tall kitchen bag, $7.99. 46 to 48-ounce carton, Blue Bunny ice cream or frozen yogurt, $3.99.
Hey, why'd you throw my glass across the room?
I have to keep practicing.
The vase from Aunt Sophie?
I'm warming up in case I get to take them out at American Family Field. Read this.
Win the ultimate baseball fan experience at Century Foods?
You either get to throw out the first pitch, hold the finish line for the famous racing sausages, or be on the field during batting practice. My new TV!
Just doing a little batting practice of my own.
The ultimate baseball fan experience from Century Foods. Return the entry form found in the weekly ad to any Century by July 26th.
Ready to downsize and move from your longtime home? Call Bruce's team today. Their senior real estate specialist will guide you every step of the way. Go from overwhelmed to I can do this. 262-242-6177. Bruce'sTeam.com.
What if you could build a six-figure retirement income with almost half the money saved? You heard that right. Get a discount on your retirement, creating a six-figure income with 40% less than traditional 401ks and mutual funds. Hi, I'm Mitch Lyons, best-selling author and executive producer of a new Hollywood documentary called The Baby Boomer Dilemma. In this film, economists and Nobel Prize-winning PhDs from Wharton, MIT, and Stanford share a strange concept I call the retirement discount. It gives you more retirement income with the same dollar saved, and your money is never at risk if the market crashes. That's right. If the market crashes 30%, you lose nothing. Even people who are on track have shifted money to this new strategy because it increases their retirement income or can allow them to stop working years sooner. So if you are over 50 and want a bigger, better retirement with less money, call to get a free copy of this brand new movie, 1-800-578-3535. This is a $30 value, but when you call today, you get it completely free, plus 2 hours of bonus behind-the-scenes footage. No credit card required. Call right now. 1-800-578-3535. That's 1-800-578-3535. Again, 1-800-578-3535. 3535.
WTMJ, W277CV, and WKTI HD2 Milwaukee. From the Annex Wealth Management Studios, this is News Radio WTMJ, a Good Karma brand station. Now, more of the Steve Scaffidi Show.
Welcome back on WTMJ. CJ Safer joins us in studio, CEO for Institute for Reforming Government. CJ, in addition to this wide-ranging report of what Wisconsinites want, you also did a poll. You did a survey. Tell us a little bit about that quantitative analysis.
So as we're going out there talking to individuals and community leaders about what issues impact them, there was a poll that was done by our friends at State Policy Network and Morning Consult that of Wisconsin voters. It just dropped a few weeks ago. And it asked also basic questions, which are, asking people about issues that are a problem to them or issues that they think are a huge concern. And the numbers were absolutely staggering, that 90% of Wisconsin voters think that drug and addictions is a major problem. 85% of Wisconsin voters said that the cost of healthcare is a major problem. 83% said mental health is a problem. 76% said childcare. So you have at least three-fourths, 3 of every 4 Wisconsin voters think that childcare, mental health, healthcare, and drugs are a problem in the state of Wisconsin. That, to me, really not only screams bipartisan solutions, but it also screams as like both sides in Madison have to come together to solve those issues. We heard them on the ground, and now this new poll just really validates that there's some major problems that almost everyone agrees is holding the state of Wisconsin back.
Well, and what an opportunity, like you said, to move forward in a bipartisan fashion. One more time, where can we get more information about this report?
reforminggovernment.org.
Thank you. CJ Safer, CEO of Institute for Reforming Government. It's 11 o'clock on WTMJ. I'm Tracy Johnson, in for Steve Scaffidi.
You're listening to the Steve Scaffidi Show on WTMJ.
It's WTMJ's Steve Scaffidi for Educators Credit Union. On behalf of all of Educators Credit Union, they would like to express their sincere gratitude to all our public safety professionals. Despite the obstacles you face every day, you continue to make the selfless decision to show up and serve local communities. The care, courage, and commitment it takes does not go unnoticed. Thank you for taking the time away from your family to protect, support, and care for ours. Thank you for all that you do.
The Midwest's best baseball and softball training facility and retail center is here in New Berlin, and it's ready for you and your team. From little leaguers to hardcore players and trainers, this is the place you'll want to be.
You can't beat Burghardt.
If you're looking for the finest of furniture finishing and heirloom restoration, by golly, it's Mullally. Mullally Furniture Finishing and Repair. Serving everywhere. Quality counts. MULLALY finishing.com.
Veterans benefits denied? Contact Tayback for the payback. Go to taybackattorneys.com.
The place to get caught up, to speak out, to connect and be entertained. We are Wisconsin's radio station. News Radio 620 WTMJ, Milwaukee.
At 11:01, it is 68 degrees. Partly cloudy skies this afternoon. 73 degrees, your high by the lake. 80 degrees inland. From the WTMJ Breaking News Center, I'm Mike Spalding. Rebuild or reimagine? The debate currently underway over what to do with the Milwaukee Freeway. A public listening session over the redevelopment of Highway 175 set to take place.
Washington Park Neighbors Board President Melissa Muller tells WTMJ the highway might not seem like a big deal to people who don't live in the neighborhood, but
people in the neighborhood would say that it creates a divider between income levels and residents of color and white residents.
Muller is hopeful that turning the highway into a slower boulevard will lead to some other changes as well.
Maybe even have it be really beautifully landscaped bike paths, a lot more connection with the Hank Aaron State Trail.
Wyatt Barmore-Pooley, WTMJ News.
The discussed redevelopment of Highway 175 would happen just north of American Family Field. Milwaukee police investigating a shooting this morning in the Bayview neighborhood. Investigators have been seen near Logan and Conway. No other details are being released at this time. Nearly 2 decades after 18-year-old Natalie Holloway's disappearance in Aruba, the prime suspect in the case is set to face charges in the U.S. Peruvian authorities okaying the extradition of Joran Vandersloot to face prosecution in the U.S. stemming from Holloway's disappearance in 2005. Here's ABC's Andrea Fujii.
Vandersloot, a Dutch national from Aruba, is currently serving a 28-year sentence in Peru for another crime, the murder of Stephanie Flores, who was strangled 5 years to the day after Holloway disappeared. Vandersloot confessed to killing Flores. Vandersloot, now 35, never faced charges in Holloway's disappearance. Her body was never found, though after months of searching, an Aruban judge declared her dead.
Meanwhile, at the U.S.-Mexico border, a record number of migrants have been apprehended this week as the pandemic immigration policy is on the verge of ending. Texas Governor Greg Abbott says he's already mobilized several hundred members of the state's National Guard to border cities in an effort to assist with the possible influx of illegal immigrants. Title 42 is expected to, or will actually, expire at midnight. Sports, traffic, weather next. Citing Unlimited, WTMJ News Times, 11:04.
This report is brought to you by Rejuvenix, your non-surgical joint therapy experts.
Alleviate your pain, rejuvenate your life.
So when you're in a pain spiral, will stem cells or bone marrow harvested from your body and then placed back into your body get you out of it? For those willing to go through a very expensive and not exactly easy process, which is not FDA approved, it might. But for those not willing to pay exorbitant amounts to go through all that, especially knowing that pain relief is not a sure thing, it's not an option. At Rejuvenex, we inject powerful, FDA-approved treatments that reduce inflammation and pain, while improving mobility in hips, shoulders, elbows, and knees. With some patients experiencing relief for greater than 2 years before repeating the process. I'm Richard Salinas, registered nurse with Rejuvenex Arthritis Pain Clinics, and we are in network with most major insurance plans, including Medicare and Medicaid. We can alleviate your pain, and that'll rejuvenate your life. It's pain relief, really.
Rejuvenix. Alleviate your pain, rejuvenate your life.
Go to rejuvenex.com to request your appointment.
Milwaukee baseball games. All those reliable sights, sounds, and smells. You know, like friends, laughter, and the sweet aroma of meat in the air when we tailgate. Speaking of reliability, you can count on Evans Transportation for accounting, shipping, and tracking needs for manufacturers. Just like the boys in blue always give us blazing fastballs, dingers, and high blood pressure in the late innings. We hope to see everyone at a game this season. And go Crew from Evans Transportation in Brookfield.
Would you trust a part-time dentist? Then why would you trust a part-time fiduciary? Some financial professionals say they're a fiduciary, and they are, part-time. The other portion of the time they're interacting with you, they might be serving other interests. Do yourself a favor. Ask your financial professional if they're a fiduciary all the time. Annex Wealth Management is. Drill down into your finances with the full-time fiduciary team at Annex Wealth Management. Know the difference.
Time for a WTMJ Sports Update.
The Green Bay Packers will officially begin their 2023 season down in the Windy City against the Chicago Bears when Jordan Love will make his first official start.
The whole offseason, I approached it that I'd be the starter. So that was just my mindset going into it.
The Packers will play a total of 5 primetime games this season, plus a Thanksgiving game against the Lions. The struggles continue in Milwaukee as the LA Dodgers take the rubber match at American Family Field on Wednesday, defeating the Brewers by a final of 8-1. The Brewers get a well-needed rest day today with plans to welcome in the Kansas City Royals for a 3-game series that begins on Friday. And lastly, over to the NBA, where Giannis Antetokounmpo was unanimously named to his 7th straight All-NBA team on Wednesday and his 4th straight first-team selection. He passes Kareem Abdul-Jabbar for most first-team picks by a player in Bucks history. I'm Brandon Snide, WTMJ Sports.
Taking a look at your roads in the Johnson & Sons paving, time saver traffic. Things are looking good out there across the system in and around southeast Wisconsin. We do have a tad bit of a slowdown northbound 94 from Layton Avenue into downtown Milwaukee. That is currently a 10-minute ride right now. A couple minutes slow. It's typically a 7-minute trip. Westbound and eastbound 94 between Highway 16 and downtown Milwaukee. Smooth sailing there. It's an 18-minute commute both directions, while 41 northbound from the zoo to Highway Q. That'll take you your standard 14 minutes.
Traffic is sponsored by Ken Michaels Furniture in Brookfield, Greenfield, or downtown Milwaukee. Milwaukee Mattress, where top-quality mattresses are priced hundreds less than premium national mattress brands. Found exclusively at Ken Michaels Furniture in Brookfield, Greenfield, and downtown Milwaukee.
Your WTMJ 5-day forecast, partly cloudy skies today, high 73, lakeside 80 degrees inland. Overnight tonight, mostly cloudy skies, a low 54. Tomorrow, rainy start to the weekend, scattered showers, 65 degrees, your high lakeside 71 inland. Saturday, more of the same, rainy, windy, 64, your high lakeside 75 inland. Sunday, More rain showers, the scattered variety. Breezy, a high 60. Monday, mostly sunny, 68 lakeside, 72 degrees your high. Inland. In Madison this morning, it is 76 degrees. Green Bay, 75. Waukesha, 76. Milwaukee. Right now, it's 71 degrees. I'm Mike Spalding, citing Unlimited WTMJ News Time, 11:08.
Breaking down the biggest stories. Talking about what truly matters.
Sometimes I'll start a sentence, and I don't even know where it's going. I just hope I find it along the way, like an improv conversation.
And letting your voice be heard.
Hello. A political poll. I never have before, but go ahead, shoot. I don't know. I don't know. I don't even know what that means.
Live from the Annex Wealth Management Studios at the Avenue.
It's showtime, everybody! Showtime!
Hey, people, it's showtime!
All right, everybody, showtime. All right, everybody, it's showtime! Now take your position. It's showtime.
Now in for Steve, here's your host, Tracy Johnson.
11:09 on WTMJ, the final hour of the Steve Scaffidi Show. I, of course, am not Steve Scaffidi, Tracy Johnson, filling in on this beautiful Thursday morning. We spend a lot of this show talking about policy, and, this is such a great audience. Thank you all for participating in this discussion. If you want to weigh in, 855-616-1620 on the Old National Bank talk and text line. Real time. We can ask these questions of those who we bring to the table. And speaking of guests coming to the table, right now we welcome Rachel Vervelde joining us from phone. She is with the WMC. She joined in 2021, the Wisconsin Manufacturers and Commerce, as the Director of Workforce, Education, and Employment Policy. In her role at WMC, she, along with colleagues, represent the interests of businesses and consumers to create that state policy. And I have to admit, I am a member of the Wisconsin Manufacturers and Commerce. So, Rachel, welcome to the show, and thank you for what you do.
Thanks, Tracy. I'm so happy to be on the show. Thanks for having me.
So you are engaged, I would probably very heavily, with the state budget process, which continues to make its way through Madison. We're expecting to hear somewhere middle of June where we will come out. As we know, Governor Evers put forth a budget that was kind of scrapped by the Republicans who are leading the legislature. But where do things stand right now, and where will we see some positive news for businesses and taxpayers?
Right now, the Joint Finance Committee has started their executive sessions on the budget, and they've done some of the easy agencies right off the bat. But there's going to be some bigger agreements that are going to have to take place here in the short term. But I want to take just a quick second and thank the Joint Finance Committee for taking out a provision that Governor Evers had put into the budget that would have severely limited the manufacturing agricultural tax credit, which is such an important tax credit for manufacturers throughout Wisconsin. And they take these dollars that they receive from this credit and they put it right back into their companies, into their workers, raising wages, working on technology to really, really help them innovate and have more business in the state. We've heard from so many manufacturers that this has been integral to them to expand, for new manufacturers to come to Wisconsin. And I really want to take time to thank the legislature for limiting, for taking out that provision where the Governor Evers would have limited that credit.
Rachel,
but also, I think, go ahead.
Rachel, why do you think that credit is always on the chopping block? I've been working, in the commercial real estate manufacturing space for almost a decade now, and I feel like this keeps coming up. When are we going to make this statute and stop chipping away at these tax credits that keep manufacturing at the heart and soul of Wisconsin economy?
Yeah, it's so frustrating. It's unbelievable. In a prior life, prior to working for WMC, I worked for Congressman Glenn Grossman as his chief of staff, and he was the author of the manufacturing agricultural tax credit in Wisconsin. And the reason he did it is because manufacturing is the backbone of our economy. It is where wealth is created in this state. And the fact that Democrats and Governor Evers has had a bullseye on this credit for years is just unbelievable. And I think that it's really important that the Republicans have stood strong and said, no, this is important. we need to keep this in place. So I think, unfortunately, the Democrats are going to keep going after it. I mean, they've showed that they're anti-business. It's not a priority for them. But it's great that we have such strong champions in the legislature in support of this credit.
So when we see a final budget, what are you hearing will be positive for the taxpayers and the businesses throughout the state?
I think the biggest thing that we'll probably see is we'll see some significant income tax reform. Now, WMC is fully supportive of a flat tax or even full elimination of the income tax. But unfortunately, we've seen multiple legislators, leadership, and Joint Finance Committee say that that's not going to happen this time. But they've been real honest that substantial tax reform is going to be coming this session. So we look forward to hearing what that proposal is going to look like. I think the negotiations on that are happening right now. So that's one thing. The second thing that I think is really important, and I think a lot of people maybe don't think about right off the top of their head, but right now in Wisconsin, our students in our schools are having lagging test scores. We have 2/3 of our students unable to read at grade level, and 60% of our students are not proficient at math. And this is a huge problem, particularly for employers. Our students are not ready for the workforce. And so we have to have competition in the educational market. And right now, unfortunately, the choice program and the charter schools are limited in what they can do. And that's partially because they receive so much less funding than what the public schools receive. They receive about $9,000 compared to an average of $15,000 for the public schools. So they're really capped out on how many students they can take into that choice program. And so one thing that WMC has been particularly passionate about this session, and our employers have asked us to be passionate about this, is making sure that dollar amount increases for choice and charter. I think that it's vitally important because we're going to see schools cap the number of students that they're going to have in the choice program, or some leave the market altogether. We already saw a choice high school in the north side of Milwaukee completely close up shop because they couldn't make the numbers work. They had 98% of their students were low income. 100% of their students graduated the 12 years that they were open and moved on to college, a 4-year degree after high school. And we lost that opportunity.
Rachel, and I think these are all great reforms, not just for the students and the communities and the municipalities, but for the workforce. And I want to take us to kind of this area of workforce and what else we can do as a state, as a legislature, as a community to help ensure that we have a prepared workforce to meet the need of these employers across the state.
Yeah, I think you see, everywhere you go, there's hiring signs. Everyone needs more employers. We hear it from our members constantly. And unfortunately, too, we hear from employers that so many people are sitting on the sidelines. And our labor participation rate in Wisconsin was at 64.7%. That's it's quite a bit lower than our highest at 75%, but it's even 1.5 points lower than at the height of the pandemic. So we have less people in the workforce now than at the height of the pandemic, which is particularly concerning to employers. So we need to work to get people off the sidelines. Now, the legislature has started to work on that. They have a workforce package. It's making reforms to the unemployment insurance benefits, and a couple of those reforms are tying the rate of unemployment to the number of weeks that you can receive for unemployment insurance. So as the unemployment rate goes higher, you receive more weeks of benefits. As it goes lower, you receive less. Our employers are particularly interested in this reform. They think it can bring a lot more people into their facilities. Also, another reform is we hear all the time from our members that they have people who are applying for jobs that don't really want the work, or they don't show up for the interview. They get offered a job and they turn it down because they say, no, we're just trying to fulfill our work search obligation in order to keep our benefits going. And so there's a reform on that as well, which I think is vitally important. So that's just one piece of the puzzle. We have to engage our young people, get them the skills that they need at an early age. Starting in middle school, we have to make sure that they have access to career and technical education, provide them career-based learning opportunities, such as youth apprenticeship, and we need to make sure that the state is adequately funding those programs in order to ensure that students are going into them.
Right.
So that's a huge part of the piece of the puzzle.
And do you have optimism that we're going to be able to accomplish this? These seem like very, very bipartisan opportunities here. You have a need and you need workers, and you have funding to create policy to prepare those workers. Are we going to see solutions here, or are we going to continue to see the passing of the political football?
I think some of these ideas can have bipartisan support.
Mm-hmm.
I would hope so. Like you said, these are common sense reforms that can happen. Unfortunately, on unemployment insurance, I don't think that the Democrats and Governor Evers see a value in making those reforms, unfortunately. But I really hope that at the K-12 level, making these reforms on youth apprenticeship, career-based learning, I mean, I can't understand why we wouldn't make those reforms, I'll be quite honest.
Well, and you work on this each and every day. Rachel Vervelde with the Wisconsin Manufacturers and Commerce, thank you so much for laying out some of the opportunities, some of the problems, and some of the solutions that we're going to see making their way through the legislature over the next coming weeks. Thank you so much for your support and your advocacy on behalf of manufacturers and business across the state of Wisconsin.
Yes, thanks, Tracy.
Have a great day. When we come back, moving on that issue of unemployment, we have a real issue, what has become an issue here in the state of Wisconsin. We'll play a little bit from our interview with Rachel from the Wisconsin Manufacturers and Commerce when we come back. It's 11:20. I'm Tracy Johnson in for Steve on WTMJ.
You're listening to the Steve Scaffidi Show on WTMJ.
WTMJ's Jeff Wagner.
But I know people should have the choice, and I know we don't have the ways of making electricity, and I know that gas-fired furnaces are efficient, effective, inexpensive comparatively, and the government shouldn't be telling us we can't have one. And at least as far as people who are terrorized by reckless drivers, there'll be a couple fewer reckless drivers out stealing cars on the road. Getting back up again, that was what the challenge was, and I think it gets worse as you get older. That's what I'm told.
Weekdays from noon to 3 on WTMJ.
May is here, and as a Wisconsinite, you know that marks the start of sun, warmth, and joy. So when the rubber meets the road, you better be ready for the changing weather and the adventures that may lie ahead. This is Jim Griffin. Don't worry whether you are a new or existing customer on the north, west, or south side of town. You are as welcome as the flowers in May. We have you covered with the marvelous service specials. We'll change your oil, inspect and rotate your tires, check the battery and air filter, give it a complete multi-point inspection, check your AC or your heat, and even change your wiper blades, all for $129.95. During the month of May, don't let your vehicle's safety and changing weather compromise your adventures. Be ready for the roads. As much confidence and peace of mind as possible when you take advantage of the marvelous service specials good at all 5 Griffin dealerships.
If you want to be sure that you're getting financial planning advice you can trust, work with a fiduciary. A fiduciary should be someone who acts as a steward for you. It means they treat your assets as if they were their own, that they protect them as if they were their own, and that they try to grow them as if they were their own. Now you can take this for what it's worth, but I'm doing all I can to run a firm you can trust. That's why we're a fee-only, comprehensive financial planning firm that doesn't work for anyone but our clients and focuses only on their best interest. By being a steward, being a fiduciary, to help our clients reach their financial goals. I'm Jim Cantrell, and I believe we can show you a wiser way to build your wealth. So go to financialstrategiesinc.com and schedule a no-cost consultation.
Financial strategies, a wiser way to build your wealth.
Now, more of the Steve Scaffidi Show on WTMJ.
Interesting stuff from Rachel Vervelde with the Wisconsin Manufacturers and Commerce. We saw numbers earlier this week showing that our unemployment rate here in Wisconsin is the lowest. It's a historic number. 2.5% unemployment rate. This is a huge issue for manufacturers, for those in the service industry, for agriculture, for all employers. And, as we talk about what employers do when they can't find the workers is, they make concessions, they make accommodations, they make investments in technology to eliminate the variable, which is the people. And I appreciate what Rachel was saying in the policy that WMC is working forward to incentivize workers to get off the couch and back to work, filling these jobs that they might not want to do. And I get it. I want a fancy dance job. But guess what? Some of those jobs don't exist, and they might not exist to pay what you want to make. We need nurses. We need teachers. We need folks to work on the assembly line. We need welders. These are the types of jobs that we need to have filled in our state, in Wisconsin. So what are policy measures that can be put in place to ensure that happens for the economic benefit of our entire state? And so Rachel had outlined a few things about ensuring that unemployed are applying for jobs. Can we put mandates around how long people work at jobs in order to receive certain benefits or certain reprieve for those benefits? And I think we're going to see a continued evolution of what workers want and what employers need. And, especially for these new graduates, we have a new batch of college graduates who are crossing the stage in the coming weeks. And the alignment between their expectation and what reality is, I think, is going to be an awakening. For so many years, we were pushing kids towards these technology jobs, towards these technology and computer-based jobs. And those are the jobs that right now we're seeing cut across the board. We're seeing hiring freezes from tech companies across the board. So where is the need, and what are we preparing our students for? As Rachel had said, to the Wisconsin Manufacturers and Commerce, what are the types of industries that we're preparing the future for? Not only for their own good, but for the good of our economy and the good of our state. These are jobs like nursing, teaching, healthcare, service, welding, the trades. This is all noble work, and it's about supply and demand. We need these types of workers. We'll pay for these types of workers. We'll wrap on this topic when we come back. It's 11:26 here on WTMJ.
This is the Steve Scaffidi Show on WTMJ. When severe weather strikes, you can count on WTMJ's Fleet Farm severe weather coverage to keep you safe and informed.
Tornado warnings in effect for Jefferson and Walworth counties.
I'm on Highway 11 now. For the last 5 minutes or so, it's been just an immense lightning storm.
If you're in Delavan, go to a place of shelter now.
Severe weather coverage on WTMJ. Sponsored by Fleet Farm, proudly serving the Midwest since 1955.
Wealth-changing question. Has your advisor created a portfolio based only on your age and risk tolerance? That's simply not good enough. Your money deserves better, and so do you. At Creative Planning, our private wealth managers learn about you first, and then they create a customized plan and portfolio by partnering with our in-house money managers, accountants, and attorneys. Don't settle for a standard portfolio. Book your free meeting today at creativeplanning.com. Creative Planning, a richer way to wealth.
Jeff Levering and wife Ashley love their new patio door from Pella Windows and Doors of Wisconsin.
It's like having a brand new kitchen. It's so bright, it's so clear. I can see the kids outside playing.
I love the roll screen. The fact that the screen is on the inside, no drafts. It's a game changer.
Get 0% interest for up to 48 months at Pella Windows and Doors of Wisconsin and have everything installed in as little as a day. Visit PellaWI.com.
Certain restrictions apply. Offer ends 5/31/2023.
Hey, WTMJ's John Mercure here. My wife Michelle and I are taking an incredible holiday trip with Colette Vacations later this year to New York City.
One night in New York.
Start spreading the news. Magical New York City, all decked out for the holidays. The first week in December, an amazing itinerary. Trip highlights include a Rockettes holiday show at historic Radio City Music Hall, the world-famous Rockefeller Christmas tree. We'll walk to dinner and a show on Broadway, take a river cruise of New York Harbor and the Statue of Liberty, and stunning Central Park. It's New York, holiday trip. Us and listeners, won't you please come with us? Going to be incredible, an awesome hotel right in the heart of Times Square. Let me send you one of our beautiful brochures. Send me an email, john.mercure@wtmj.com, john.mercure@wtmj.com. Festive and fun. Great itinerary. John.mercure, MERCURE @wtmj.com.
In New York.
Won't you come with us this December? I'd like for you to wake up with us in the city that never sleeps.
This is the Steve Scaffidi Show on WTMJ.
Thanks for being with us today. It's 11:29 on WTMJ. Before we get to our final half hour of the Steve Scaffidi Show, just wrapping on this idea of preparing the future workforce. As we approach graduation season, we have a lot of young people out there, young adults, who enter the world bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, getting their first job out of college, and it is a different landscape out there. The jobs that are out there, the jobs that are available, and what employers want to hire for are sometimes not in alignment. And so, as I think about this, and I don't have college-age kids yet, my kids are 10 and 12, but continuing to think about what are those skills and what are those attributes that are going to be so important, whether there's automated intelligence, whether there's technology, whether there are robots. And those are the people skills, the communication, the manners, the confidence, those hands-on experiences, those hands-on types of jobs that are done face-to-face. And so, as we think about that and as we prepare our young people for the future, this is really where my mind goes. And again, thanks to Rachel Vervelde from the Wisconsin Manufacturers and Commerce for really laying this out, not only what the issues are, but what the opportunities are and where policymakers' heads are at in preparing the future workforce. But right now, from the Breaking News Center on WTMJ, here's Mike Spalding.
Thank you, Tracy. 30 people in police custody today, all of them rounded up during a series of FBI raids on Milwaukee's North Side Wednesday afternoon. The Milwaukee FBI office says the suspects all facing charges that range from fraud to murder for hire. The FBI conducting raids at homes of suspected gang members Wednesday and say that similar raids were conducted across the country. We're getting back to the movies, at least getting back to the Milwaukee Film Festival. The festival says it saw a nearly 60% increase in in-person attendance this year. Organizers say that attendance for the two-week festival was at 30,000, up from about 18,000 last year. And another Antetokounmpo baby is on the way. Buck star Giannis and his wife Mariah are having another baby. The couple posted the news on social media Wednesday. Currently have two boys, 3-year-old Liam and 1-year-old Maverick. Time now for some news about your money and the WTMJ Annex Wealth Management Market Update. The Dow down right now 245 at 33,286. The Nasdaq's up 18.5 at 12,324. The S&P 500 down 9.5 points at 4128. Get on track with investment and retirement planning. Visit annexwealth.com and click the Get Started button today. Taking a look at your roads and the Johnson & Sons paving time saver traffic. Things are looking good across the system. Do have a bit of a slowdown heading eastbound on 94. An accident right at about 13th Street. The left lane is blocked, so you might be tapping the brakes a bit heading between the Stadium interchange and about the Marquette interchange. Again, eastbound 94 a bit slow right now due to an accident at 13th Street that has a left lane blocked. Elsewhere, though, things are looking good.
Traffic is sponsored by Hall Mazda Milwaukee. Visit hallmazdamilwaukee.com.
Be our eyes on the roads. Report accidents, slowdowns, and road conditions to the WTMJ Hall Mazda traffic tip line at 414-238-9329.
Your WTMJ 5-day forecast, partly cloudy skies today, 73 degrees, your high by the lake, 80 degrees inland. Overnight tonight, partly cloudy skies, a low 54. Tomorrow, scattered showers are likely, 65 degrees, your high lakeside, 71 Inland, Saturday, isolated showers are likely, breezy, a high 64 by the lake, 75 inland. Sunday, mostly cloudy skies, scattered showers, a high 60. Monday, mostly sunny, 68 degrees or high lakeside, about 72 degrees inland. Right now in downtown Milwaukee, it is 66 degrees. I'm Mike Spalding, citing Unlimited WTMJ News Times, 11:33.
Hey, former radio wake-up guy Gene Miller here for my friends at Hometown Windows and Doors. That's Hometown with an E for your every window and door need. If that recent cold snap made you think that now is the time to replace those drafty old windows, then now is a good time to call Hometown Windows and Doors. Save heating costs now, cooling dollars down the road with energy-efficient replacement windows and doors from Hometown. Hometown offers the brands you trust like Anderson, Pella, Marvin, Softlight, and more in wood, vinyl, and fiberglass. And all of their products are installed by employee carpenters. Plus, Hometown is the area's only Pella Platinum and Marvin authorized replacement company. Hometown's dedicated consultants can guide you to the best fit and value for your home and your remodeling dollar. Stop in at their newly remodeled showroom in New Berlin and see the Hometown difference for yourself. Or call them for a no-pressure in-home consultation, 414-329-1200, or visit them at hometownwindows.com. That's Hometown with an E for your every window and door need.
You know, it feels good when I find something really cool and get a great deal on it. But it feels even better when I know that the money I spend actually goes directly to helping others. That's why I shop at St. Vincent de Paul, because I always find the best bargains, and the money I spend stays in Milwaukee County to help fight hunger and eliminate poverty. St. Vincent de Paul thrift stores on Highway 100 in Layton in Greenfield and 23rd and Lincoln in Milwaukee.
You're gonna love it, St. Vincent de Paul.
It's ESPN Wisconsin's Greg Scalzo for Smart Spaces. How can Smart Spaces transform your business?
The technology frustrations we hear about, hands down, ease of use.
We take that complexity out of it and keep it down to the bare minimum of what they need and what they use.
Our goal is to lend a level of simplicity that any knowledge level can walk into that room and at a glance know exactly how to turn that room on and utilize all of its features.
Let Smart Spaces transform your business today. Visit smartspaceswi.com.
Now, more of the Steve Scaffidi Show on WTMJ.
Welcome back. I see what you did there, Brandon. I see what you did there. See, before the show, we share kind of an outline. I shared kind of an outline of where we want to take the show. And secretly, I think you really like trying to figure out the bumper music.
I absolutely do.
So it's a little bit of creativity. I appreciate it. But so if you hadn't figured out, I'm going to talk about that song and that dance. No, I'm just kidding. I'm going to talk about cell phone use and social media use. There is a new piece of legislation in Florida. We're talking a lot about legislation. It must be that season that would ban Florida students from using social media. And when I saw this headline, I started to look into it more, and it referenced a number of other articles and one here in Wisconsin about legislation having to do with cell phones and social media. And this caught my attention particularly because I am a mom of young kids, as I mentioned earlier. And, you know, I pay attention to some issues more than others. And cell phones happens to be a huge topic of conversation in our household. We recently purchased a cell phone with the cell coverage for my 12-year-old son. My son is very active in sports. He has after-school activities. He is now at a stage where he can kind of be left somewhat on his own for limited periods of time. And so we got the cell phone not just for him, but really for us. And when we purchased the cell phone and when we allowed him to have it, we noticed right away, and I wonder if you see this too, we noticed right away how he gets sucked into the text messages, the YouTube, the searching, the social media. And, you know, while we don't like openly advocate or condone or allow him to sign up for some of these things, I really don't know all the things that are out there. I don't know what I don't know. And, you know, one of the other things that I've noticed, and in talking to my friends, others have noticed, is that being attached to these cell phones impacts all other aspects of their lives. They become irritable. They become inattentive, obsessed, and most importantly for us is, watching what happens to their grades and how they pay attention to schoolwork and prioritization. And so we did step in, we put some of those parameters around the usage, and we've seen a market improvement. So anyone out there who's saying, oh, I think there's a problem and I don't know what it could be, first stop, look at their cell phone usage. But if you let this slide and if you let this go on too long, in talking to other parents, it's really hard to break some of these habits and keep them on track. And, this is not unique to my kids, to my kid. I know this is a widespread problem, and I'm not advocating for or in favor of taking cell phones away from kids indefinitely or shielding them from social media use indefinitely. At some point, they're going to be adults, right? And they're going to have access to this. They're going to use this at their leisure. They're going to be able to use this for their benefit. I mean, cell phone has made my life easier. I've been able to look up a bunch of information and connect with some of the interviews that we've had. But, it has to be in a more measured way. And frankly, when I was growing up, I didn't have a cell phone. I didn't have to deal with social media. And we hear about the impacts of social media on these kids. You heard CJ Safer from Institute for Reforming Government suggesting that mental health is the most common and most pervasive issue amongst students and workers in our state. Mental illness, mental health issues. The leading cause, I don't want to say cause, the leading reason that we have so many of these issues, I believe, is because of social media and how attached kids are to their phones and potentially the unrealistic expectations these kids have about their lives and about watching other people and their confidence and not having that interaction with people out in the world. And so Florida is one of the states that is putting a ban on social media usage in a way that they can control. They can't really control kids' social media usage writ large, but they can control it in the schools. And Florida, as we've heard, is a state that is really trying to put measures around education, whether it's your books or cell phones or types of curriculum, and that's for a different discussion. But these cell phone usage and social media usage is a way that they're trying to not only help the students and help the families, but help the teachers, because this is creating such a distraction for the teachers who are trying to focus these children who come from all different types of backgrounds and who have all types of different stories. They need to be focused on the education, not on the social media. So they're barring social media usage in schools. And they're barring social media usage using school internet. And we see similar types of legislation in Utah. And just recently, Representative David Steffen here in Wisconsin is introducing legislation called the Kids Online Safety Act that would create basically a social media curfew for kids. So is this a good idea? Is legislation around social media usage for kids a good idea? Will this work? Will this help solve some of our mental health issues? 855-616-1620 on the Old National Bank talk and text line. Is this the answer? I mean, we talk about funding for mental health counselors. We talk about creating policy around, different mental health resources. But is simply eliminating social media usage in schools, is this a good first step to help solve for some of these issues? 855-616-1620 on the Old National Bank talk and text line. My answer might surprise you, but I want to hear from you. 855-616-1620 on the Old National Bank talk and text line. Your response, my reaction when we come back. I'm Tracy Johnson, in for Steve Scaffidi on WTMJ.
This is the Steve Scaffidi Show on WTMJ.
Hey, this is WTMJ Steve Scaffidi for Annex Wealth Management. Hard landing, soft landing, maybe no landing. If you've hit the pause button on your investment retirement planning, perhaps rethink that decision. Doing nothing isn't the way to go. It's really tough without a plan. If your path isn't laid out in simple-to-follow steps by a team of financial professionals, then it's an uphill battle. That causes anxiety and worry, and you don't need that. You need a team that will comb through your investments to see where the overlap is, where the issues are, and where the opportunities exist. Put a plan in place or upgrade the one you have with someone else. It's time for a plan built by fee-only fiduciaries at Annex Wealth Management, a plan that addresses investment, retirement, tax, and estate planning. They've got 8 convenient locations for an in-person meeting, or if you're more comfortable, virtual meetings via Zoom. There's a significant difference between financial advisors. Know the difference. Start at AnnexWealth.com.
Champagne's not as cheap as ginger ale, and you can't buy caviar for the same price as candy. But now, you can buy Beautyrest Hybrid and the highest-end Tempur-Pedic mattresses for nowhere near highest-end prices. Hassleless Mattress is clearing out a handful of premium floor models. These mattresses are the best, and you can get them for way less. Like the Beautyrest Queen Haven Bay was on sale for $1,178, now just $471. Or the Beautyrest Hybrid King Harbor Oaks was on sale for $3,099, but the floor model is just $854. Plus, save big on Sealy adjustable bases, originally marked $984, now on sale for just $392. It's like buying a Rolls Royce for 10 grand just because it sat on the showroom floor. Selection is limited. Only a few floor models are available at each Hassless location, and when they're gone for good. Find a self-service, employee-free showroom near you at Hassless.com.
There are over 10,000 reasons why steel is not sold at Lowe's or the Home Depot. There are over 10,000 authorized local steel dealers. Find yours at SteelUSA.com. Lowe's and the Home Depot are trademarks of their respective companies.
You can't beat Bernhard.
Now open in New Berlin. From the ashes of the Galactic Empire comes a new threat to the galaxy 30 years later. And you can see the drama unfold as the Milwaukee Symphony Orchestra presents Star Wars: The Force Awakens in concert. Visit MSO.org for tickets or call 414-291-7605. Join Han, Leia, Chewie, and 3PO as they team up with new friends BB-8, Rey, Poe, and Finn to find the missing Luke Skywalker and defeat Kylo Ren and the evil First Order. Director J.J. Abrams has something for fans young and old, and there's nothing like hearing the music of John Williams live as the movie shows on screen. Star Wars: The Force Awakens in concert runs May 12th through the 14th only at the Bradley Symphony Center. Call for tickets 414-291-7605 or visit MSO.org.
Now, more of the Steve Scaffidi Show on WTMJ.
Girls I've never seen before. You used to call me on my cell phone.
1146 on WTMJ. Many states are coming up with legislation and instituting legislation that would limit social media usage for students in K through 12. They're saying, you know what, we've got mental health issues, we've got bullying issues, we've got this addictive situation where we can't focus these kids on learning. And so lawmakers in Florida are actually, the Governor DeSantis is actually signing it, the piece of legislation that says no social media on school grounds. Now, enforcing it is another story. But what I applaud about this legislation, about legislation that is in Utah, about similar legislation that's being circulated for co-sponsorship in Wisconsin. This is actually in Wisconsin. What I think needs to be a part of this legislation is that parents need to be a part of the education process to fully understand what's happening with these kids and the fact that it is so addictive, and showing examples of what happens on these social media platforms. I am a Gen Xer, and I was not raised with a cell phone. I didn't have a cell phone until I was 25, 26. And that is a very different situation from what is happening now. Kids are already spending somewhere around 9 hours a day in front of a screen. And this is without their cell phones at school. Everything is done, even with a teacher at the front of the classroom, they are still looking at some sort of screen. But the issue is really this social media and the fact that we can't control it. I think parents should be required to be part of the education, and any legislation that would move forward needs to include that language. Because guess what? Last time I checked, these schools, these teachers are already overburdened. Think about, how do we enforce this? How do we mandate this? How do we keep kids away from social media? Here's the deal. It's inevitable. They are going to go there eventually. But we have the opportunity, or at least the optimist in me believes that we have the opportunity to educate these kids, educate these parents around the harms of social media and what they can do to limit it. We have, I mean, the text line is blowing up on this. It's from the 847. When you're in school without a cell phone, you can get bullied in the walls of the school. Yeah, this isn't going to eliminate bullying, but at least when you go home, you are not being followed around by that. On social media, that type of behavior is pervasive. And it's not only about someone bullying another person. I think a lot of it has to do with how kids perceive that communication or social media. Having a 12-year-old son, and talking to him about bullying, the way that they see and they think about bullying, I think requires a reset. And I applaud any legislator, any state that would look at legislation that would try to educate or at least focus on this. It's a start, because these cell phones, this technology is not going away. It is only going to get worse, so to speak. And so again, I will be watching and waiting for news to continue to develop around this legislation here in Wisconsin. I don't know Representative David Steffen. He is a representative up north in the Green Bay area, but his legislation is designed to empower parents, protect kids from the social media dangers. And just like anything in this world, the parents need to be at the table. The parents need to be part of the conversation. And as a parent who already has so much on my plate, I still think this is a worthwhile endeavor, a worthwhile focus, because it will expand and extend into so many other facets of their life. I want to bring Brandon in, because we did talk about this. Brandon, you have 5 kids, and your kids have cell phones. Are they on social media platforms?
I have 5 kids. Let me count real quick. Okay, yeah, we're at 5. The top 3, the oldest 3, have cell phones. 14-year-old, 12-year-old, and 11-year-old. And kind of like you, Tracy, like my 14-year-old goes off and he's like at school for hours with track or baseball, and the 2 younger ones are in the same boat. They play baseball. So it's a good way to be able to know where they're at. Like I was talking to you before, we have an app on our phone called Life 360. It kind of gives me an idea of where they're at, if they're in a car, where they're traveling. It gives me an exact address. So in that way, it's beneficial. As far as social media goes, they do have TikTok. Now, my 14-year-old son doesn't. He doesn't really do much on. Snapchat is the big thing with kids.
Yeah,
it's Snapchat now, but there is no Twitter. There's no Facebook.
So do you welcome this legislation?
I would love this legislation to be for everybody. I hate social media.
Well, and I think, you know, and making it more of an education, because as we were talking, I was not raised with social media. And so I don't understand the dangers and the addiction that we've exposed our kids to. So, you know, any legislation, it's all about the enforcement and what's the enforcement mechanism. And again, we can't make the teachers do it. We're not going to have police go out to these houses and say, hey, I noticed that your 10-year-old was on TikTok. But anything to bring light to some of these issues.
You know, another thing too, and you could probably relate to, and anybody with like school-age children, everything that they do now on homework is through is like it's not social media, but it's like an app that you have to use on smart devices, you know, whether it's an iPad or a phone or a computer. I mean, everything is revolving around the world of technology, and we're seeing it obviously with the rise in AI too. It's all you can really do is try to mitigate the risks, right? I don't think you're never going to be able to stop it. I can't sit downstairs where my 14-year-old has his man cave and watch what he does every second that he's on his phone. You know what I mean? It's impossible. I can have conversations with him. I can educate him, and I can advise him. You know, but I'm not going to be the parent that's give me your phone every day.
It's just one more thing. As I sit here with 3 screens around me, my cell phone, I mean, do I multiply that then?
Yeah.
All right. Well, we'll continue to follow that story. When we come back, Jeff Wagner's in the studio. It's 11:54. I'm Tracy Johnson in for Steve Scaffidi on WTMJ.
You're listening to the Steve Scaffidi Show on WTMJ. Stay in touch. You can reach us on the Old National Bank talk and text line at 855-616-1620. Old National Bank. Get old.
Are you ready for retirement? I'm Tony Drake, founder of Drake & Associates. My new book, Get Retirement Ready, can help make retiring easier. In it, I discuss a well-thought-out financial plan and how that makes the difference between just surviving and thriving in retirement. Using everyday language, this book explores how a simple process can help you cover all the bases of your financial life, like planning for health care, leaving a legacy for your loved ones, and being as tax efficient as possible, and much more. Call or text BOOK to 414-404-4994 for your free copy and a bonus retirement ready toolkit from Drake & Associates that includes helpful guides on taxes, Social Security, healthcare, and much more. Call or text BOOK to 414-404-4994.
Investment advisory services provided by Drake & Associates, LLC, an SEC-registered investment advisor. Insurance products are offered through a separate company, Law Financial Group, LLC. Registration as an investment advisor does not imply any level of skill or training.
Semper Fi Roofing and Exteriors. CertainTeed Diamond Level Select Shingle Masters. The best of the best. And that's why you can feel confident in choosing us to install your new roof.
We keep you safe, warm, and dry. Semper Fi.
Our Milwaukee Mattress Heirloom Queen Size Innerspring Mattress and Box Spring Set is everyday priced at $21.90. We want you to shop and compare because you'll find the same mattress quality at national brand retailers priced around $4,000 to $5,000. Visit our store, shop and compare, and save over 50% on a top quality Milwaukee mattress from Ken Michaels Furniture, where no middleman means no extra markup and real savings for you. Brookfield, Greenfield, or downtown Milwaukee. Higher quality national brand mattresses cost way too much, but a comparable quality Milwaukee mattress will cost you hundreds less because we make our own mattresses. Get the same quality for less, made locally at factory direct pricing that will save you hundreds and get you a great night's sleep. Deal directly with the people who make it and shop Ken Michaels Furniture for your new Milwaukee mattress, where no middleman needs no extra markup and real savings for you. In Brookfield, Greenfield, or downtown Milwaukee, KenMichaelsFurniture.com.
WTMJ, W277CV, and WKTI HD2 Milwaukee. From the Annex Wealth Management Studios, this is News Radio WTMJ, a good karma brand station.
Closing time. Open all the doors and let you out into the
Thank you, everyone.